No.
Okay.
We may get some drama. Paul, this is the wrong board to be picking a fight with, Indigenous or anything else.
So, do we need these now or no? They put yours there.
I would stick, no, but I think that will also switch when the camera turns on us. We can see who the camera is on.
So it wasn't my dog. Is that a little bit of dog? I have such a little foo-foo dog. I took her with me to
By the light. Yes. That makes a difference.
all the meetings.
Okay. Robin, are you ready with her report? Is she ready? Robin? Give me a sec. We were called to order at 5 p.m. And then moved to closed session. A report from closed session.
The board recommends for the suspended expulsion for student 02272020A.
So moved.
A second.
I'll second.
Roll call.
That's loud.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk.
Aye.
Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
The board recommends for the expulsion for student 02272020B.
So moved.
First by Mr. Gracia,
Second?
second by Mr. Shunk.
Roll call. Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk.
Aye.
Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
The board recommends for the expulsion for student 02272020C.
So moved.
First by Mrs. Gonzalez Mares,
Second.
second by Mr. Hurtado.
Roll call. Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk.
Aye.
And Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
The board recommends for the expulsion for student 02272020D.
So moved.
Second?
First by who?
Myself.
Mr. Gracia and a second by Mr. Shunk. All those in favor, or excuse me, roll call.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk.
Aye.
And Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
The board recommends for the expulsion for student 02272020E.
So moved.
I'll second. Okay.
A first by Mr. Gracia, a second by Mrs. Waters.
Roll call. Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz. Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk.
Aye.
And Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
The board recommends for the expulsion for student 02272020F.
So moved.
First by Mr. Gracia,
Second.
second by Mr. Hurtado.
Roll call. Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk.
Aye.
And Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
The board recommends for the expulsion for student 02272020G.
So moved.
A first by Mr. Gracia, a second by Mr. Shunk.
Roll call. Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk.
Aye.
And Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
The board recommends for the expulsion for student 02272020H.
So moved.
First by Mr. Gracia,
Second.
second by Mr. Hurtado.
Roll call. Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk.
Aye.
And Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
The board recommends for the expulsion for student 02272020I.
So moved.
Second.
First by Mr. Gracia, a second by Ms. Water.
Roll call, Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk.
Aye.
And Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
The board recommends for the readmission after expulsion for student 02272020J.
So moved.
First by Mr. Gracia,
Second.
second by Mr. Shunk.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk. Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
The board recommends, for the readmission after expulsion for student 02272020K.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Gonzalez Mares, a second by Mr. Gracia.
Roll call, Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk.
Aye.
And Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
Concluded.
Thank you for the report. Flag salute, if we can have Ms. Gail Young lead us in the flag salute, please. Announcement, this meeting is recorded for live streaming and archiving on the district YouTube channel. Approval of the agenda.
I'd like to make a slight adjustment to move item K6C ahead of item K6A, and otherwise would move to approve the agenda.
K6C.
Okay. Before K6A and B. Yep. Can I get a,
I'll second that motion.
so I have a first by Mr. Gracia and a second by Ms. Gonzalez Mares. All those in favor? Aye. Abstentions? Okay. Approval of the minutes. E5A, approval of minutes, January 16, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
A first by Mr. Gracia and a second by Ms. Water. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions? Okay. Also, approval of minutes, E5B.
So moved.
Second.
A first by Mr. Gracia and a second by Mr. Shunk. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions?
Abstentions. Jose was absent.
Jose, you were absent?
Was I absent?
The last meeting?
Yes.
30th.
Oh, yes. I abstain.
We have one abstention.
I thought I saw that I was on there.
E6, recognition of visitors and employee organizations, MVEA. Ms. Gail Young?
Hi, I'm Gail Young, I'm president of the Valley Educators Association, and I have with me tonight my vice president and my chief negotiator. and I'm going to look at that for it.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Welcome.
NAPS, Leslie Walder.
Good evening, my name is Leslie Walder, and I represent the NAP Association of People Services. I'm pleased to be here tonight in solidarity with our friends at NVUSD.
Thank you for coming. CSEA. Okay, thank you. Recognition of Students of the Month, and we will start with American Canyon High School.
It just wears me out. These things.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to recognize some fabulous students on our campus once again. The kids don't know this, but we solicit the nominations from teachers on our campus, and this time, we had a lot of students nominated. So I just want you guys to know that, that it's not just the only 2 kids that get nominated, and this was one of the only times we had to choose through numerous students who were all very deserving, but these 2 students were the students that rose to the top this time around. So our first student of the month for January is Corey Harvey, and Corey was nominated by her leadership teacher, Miss Harris. And Ms. Harris says that Corey has done so much on our campus. She's been a leader in my leadership class for the past 3 years and is now an ASB officer. She also plays soccer and started the S Club on campus. She spearheaded the Kindness Challenge at our school last year, as well as the Say Something Week. Many students and staff don't see what she does because she is always behind the scenes, making sure that things are running smoothly. She also has a 4.0 GPA, and I can say during tense situations, she always does the right thing, it seems. So we are very proud of Corey, and we'd like to welcome her up here.
Hello. Thank you to everyone here for having me and my peer Calvin, the other student of the month at my school. And then also a thank you to the staff at American Canyon High School, as well, of course, as my parents and my entire support system. So as Ms. Lopez said, I was nominated by my leadership teacher, Mrs. Harris, so I would like to talk a little bit about what this class has done for me. So going into high school, I was just a nerdy little band kid who stressed myself out way too much for no reason over school and my academics. And then I decided to try something new. So my sophomore year of high school, I joined leadership. And since then, I have learned true passion, drive, and perseverance. It's not an easy class, and it certainly does get tiring. I have spent the past 2 days in leadership interviews. We have 70 plus students to interview for the next school year, and I feel like I'm losing my mind. But nonetheless, it has transformed me into a student who cares about my school. Through this class, I have made so many connections with ACHS students and staff alike, from students of all grades to staff members that I have never had as a teacher or interacted with on a day-to-day basis. And these connections I am truly grateful for. Academically, this class has pushed me to keep up my GPA, not just because of the GPA requirements to be in that class, but because that's just what leadership students do. Every day in that class, I work with super geniuses, and I have an amazing teacher who encourages me to do my best. I have a teacher who will sit down with me as I'm having a breakdown over what college to go to. And I have a teacher who always pushes me to try new things and do the impossible, or what I think could be the impossible. So just thank you again for this award and for allowing me to be here, and have a good evening.
And our February student of the month is Calvin Alejandrino. Calvin was nominated by our choir teacher, Mr. Butler. And Mr. Butler says that Calvin has been a leader in choir for 4 years on his sports team and in Link Crew. There are a few students I've encountered over my career who are as driven and as enthusiastic as Calvin. He is fearless in trying new experiences, like being a part of the musical without any prior experience. He is beloved by everyone he knows because he is an authentic young man who truly believes in making everything he does and the people he meets better. He is the heart and soul of the choir, and he will be sorely missed next year. And that is true. He has a bright smile that lights up on campus wherever he goes. He's also the president of our math fraternity, Mu Alpha Theta, so that's no small feat either. So come on up, Calvin.
So, hi, again, my name is Calvin. I'd like to thank the school board for allowing me to speak in front of you guys and allowing me to be here at all. Being able to have this type of honor is a big deal for me. So I also like to thank the ACHS staff because without them, I wouldn't have been as enthusiastic as I am. I wouldn't have done any of the things I do at school without them. I want to talk about my choir experience because Mr. Butler is the one that nominated me, so I thought I'd talk about that. Sorry, I'm a little sick, so if I start coughing, that's sorry about that. But yeah, my choir experience, I can tell you it's been a lot. My freshman year, we have what we call men's choir. It's just a bunch of freshman guys in a class. It's very fun, I can tell you that, but it's definitely not serious. All we do is sing silly songs about pirates and taking baths. It's really nothing. It's just to get into the motion of choir. But as the years go on, choir becomes much more of a serious thing. But because it's so serious and we're so into it, I really get into choir because I really love to sing. And through choir, I met a lot of many new friends, those who have graduated, those who are still coming into the school, those who are in school right now, or who's at the high school right now, currently in school. So I'm just really happy to be able to make those connections with those other kids, make those connections with kids who have graduated already. And I've created a family because of choir, so I'm very glad that I'm a part of that. Like Ms. Lopez said, I'm a part of other different things at the school. I am Mu Alpha Theta's president. Yes, that is our honors math society. We kind of just dive deeper into more topics of math. We all enjoy math. We all share a passion for math. So that's where I like to I'm trying to find the word. I just like that concept, different concepts of math, and I just like being around those people. I'm also part of the musical, which is something new I've never done before. It's truly a different experience because it's instead of being in the choir program, I'm now in the drama program, and that is definitely a different type of world that I'm living in. And there's a lot going on right now, but I'm a part of all these things, and I don't know how I'm doing it. I'm going to be honest, but I'm striving. I'm getting through it. I'm getting through it because where I am right now, I might be stressed, but I am happy. So thank you guys.
You're welcome.
Napa Valley Independent Studies.
Good evening. I'm Susan Wilson, and I'm one of the teachers on special assignments for Independent Studies on the newly beautiful American Canyon High School campus. This is our first year there, and it's very successful. Crystal, I need to tell you just thank you. Very welcoming, very great partnership here. There's 33 kids in the program there under me, and with about 10 people on a waiting list. So we're doing something right. So I want to thank you, School Board and NVEA, again, for this amazing pleasure to introduce two amazing young men. Our first is Pierre. You can come on up. He's our November Student of the Month. And Pierre is new to Independent Studies and just started with us this year. But what you see here is a man that perseveres. You're welcome. As I tell him, he is stronger than any challenge that he faces. We've seen the highs, we've seen some lows, but he always comes back out on top. I'm going to let him share his story.
Hi, my name is Pierre Caballero. I live in American Canyon, and I go to Napa Valley Independent Studies in American Canyon. First, I'd like to thank the Napa Valley School Board, Napa Valley Educators Association, and Dr. Musetti at Independent Studies for this honor. I'd like to recognize my mom, my friend Osmar Mendez, my other friend Nathan, Izzy, and Melanie for the constant support and dedication. I would like to recognize a few teachers that made a big impact on me. Ms. Gustafson, a Mandarin teacher at ACHS. Ms. Vu, my math teacher at ACHS. Mr. Som, counselor at ACHS. And I'm thankful for Independent Studies, Ms. Wilson and Ms. Lucero for being ever so patient with me. Your constant support, flexibility, and dedication that is never ending. You have helped me beyond academics, and you never stop believing in me. Before I transferred to Independent Studies, I attended to ACHS. My freshman year started out academically fine, yet I hid behind my mental illness. As the year went on, I found myself wanting to be more at home. I did not feel that I fit in peer groups at school. Sophomore year was really long. Starting off my junior year at Independent Studies, I learned a lot about myself. I am self-reliant, and my personal moral has been optimistic. Currently, I have a 4.0 GPA and taking advantage of all the opportunities at NVIS. This Friday seminar series has been diverse and allows me to explore careers and college and life skills and interpersonal skills. One thing I'm proud of that I can carry over NVIS is to keep moving forward no matter how hard it gets. Life is going to give us challenges that seem hard, but I know that I'm stronger than that challenge. I'm looking forward to what is going to happen after graduation. I'm hoping to attend UC Davis or UC Berkeley to get a degree in mechanical engineering. Once again, thank you for this honor to be Student of the Month.
Our December Student of the Month is Christopher Olivier. Come on up, Christopher. Christopher's been with Independent Studies for 3 years now. And he started with us over on the Napa campus, and then he came to us up to the American Canyon campus. This young man, you might have seen him in many, many different aspects in our community. He has 3 NGOs right now and a very successful robotics group, nonprofit. I tell him every day I'm so proud of him. And he's modest, so when he was writing his speech, I said, stop it. And he's like, I don't know how, but I told him just to speak and to share. You ready? Yeah, good.
So, hello, my name is Christopher, and first of all, I would really love to thank Miss Wilson for nominating me for this award. So, I really want to thank her for being such a wonderful advocate and educator that I've met over the several years that I've been in the NVUSD school district. And she's definitely the best teacher that I've had throughout NVUSD, and I've definitely been through a lot of schools. So, I've transferred 4 times to 4 different schools throughout Napa County, both private and public. And Miss Wilson has been so supportive in everything that I want to do and has been supporting all the different passions that I go through each year. So NVIS has given me the ability to really work on a lot of the different nonprofits and NGOs that I feel like that day. So my most recent one, which is Napa County Robotics, is a program that allows students ranging from 7th to 12th grade to compete in a competitive robotics program. And the newest thing about that is that we have acquired 6 different partners from different tech companies throughout California and the world, along with securing a partnership with Napa Valley College to allow Napa Valley College students to come mentor and help us out. So I really want to thank the NVUSD School Board along with the Napa Valley Educators Association for supporting NVIS and my ability to attend this incredible program. Lastly, I want to thank my parents, Letty and Rich, for supporting me so much through all of my different projects, and definitely my mom for driving me every single week from St. Helena to American Canyon, specifically for this Napa Valley Independent Studies program. Thank you again.
Can I have American Canyon students and Napa Valley Independent Study come to the front and take a picture, please?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Teachers.
Teachers,
family.
family members, squinch in.
G, public comments on non-agenda items. Members of the audience may address the board, on any school-related matter that is not on the agenda. The board will not take action on any issue raised during this section of the agenda inasmuch as board action is limited to posted agenda items. Speakers are requested to limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. We ask you to stop once your time is up. Thank you very much. Ray Borja.
Good evening. My name is Ray Borgia. I'm a 15-year employee of the district. I work for food service as a driver for food service. I deliver food to the schools in American Canyon, 3 grammar schools, and I work at the high school. A year ago, food service we have a meeting once a year, the first week before school starts. And at that meeting, we were told that we have more hours than we need for the work we do. More hours for the work that we do. In other words, we don't do enough, I guess. At that meeting, food service employees were told they have too many hours for the work they do. What a slap in the face that is to those ladies. And I will use ladies as ladies because 90% of food service are ladies. And you slap them in the face when you tell them they don't do their job. The employees of food service give more every day so their children can have a hot lunch and breakfast. Someone named Data, however you want to say it, made a big mistake on how they cut our hours. Now let's talk about reconstruction for food service. Will the employees of food service see the slideshow before they put it in place? I lost my notes. Food service employees have, Data has no idea what we do. So what happens? Employees lost hours, lost half their salaries, takes longer to retire, get a second job so they can take care of their home life, can't pay for health care, can't pay for daycare. We now run to get food ready for service for the kids at lunch. Why do they run? Never enough ladies on the job to do it properly and do it correctly. And the results, they no longer trust the district, they have anger, some have depression, and the results, they get injured running. Depression makes you sick. Employees of food service cannot say, oh, leave it till tomorrow. We don't have that time. I'm sorry to have to bring all that to you after all that great thing you just did with the kids. We all know change comes, but this time the data was wrong. We also were told not to complain, so this isn't a complaint. It's just facts. We are being run in the ground. And we understand you have meetings with food service employees, you have meetings with the union. Somebody's got to figure out what's wrong. And I don't know how to do it. I used to be on the negotiating team, I gave up. Because you don't get answers. At least we didn't then. I see now that I like your proposals for reconstruction, but what? Will it affect their time? I mean, you cut their salaries in half. They lost time, it's by hour how we retire. Some of those ladies that wanted to go this year or next can't because it affects their hours. I'm sorry, it's been a long time since I talked to the board. Last time was when we were talking about Sodeco. Long time. And I'm a little nervous about saying it, but the passion I have for these ladies, I've worked, most of them I knew because they came out of high school here. And they went to high school with my wife, and some of them even brought their kids to my wife's daycare. I've said that before. I know them. And I got those phone calls while I was on the negotiating team in the middle of the afternoon or in the morning, crying because of what they lost. Somebody's got to really take it in hand.
Mr. Borja, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I know my time. But thank you very much. I'm sorry I stuttered a little bit.
Jacob Aaron.
All right, how's it going, everybody? I'd like to thank you, NVUSD board, and Dr. Massetti for allowing the time for me to share a little bit about my experience as a vintage student athlete volunteer. My name is Jacob Aaron. I'm a junior honor student who participates in golf and football. What I'd like to share with you today is how valuable the football program has been to me and others due to Coach Sleet's requirement to participate in a number of community service opportunities. So throughout the year, we participate in such volunteer activities like helping with garden cleanup, cemetery maintenance, setting up and breaking down the Napa Valley Marathon. So last spring, Coach Leach called upon a couple of us to meet him at a Jefferson Shopping Center, where he drove us to volunteer location one early Saturday morning. We were unaware of what we were doing until we were handed gloves and a mask and given a brief description of how this home owner suffered from mental health issues and hoarding disorder. She needed our help cleaning her home. A county mental health representative, a youth mental health group, and members of our football team were there to assist the individual in helping make the home a healthier living environment. The scene that I witnessed that day will forever be ingrained in my memory. My volunteering that day wasn't a typical experience. It was one where I learned empathy, became aware of the struggles of a person in our community, and helped that person who couldn't help themselves. The commitment to our football program goes far beyond practices, games, and the weight room. Coach Leach models the commitment we have to humanity. To the person who may think extracurricular activities such as band and athletics are not needed on our school campus, I invite them to come to our program, and I bet it will change their mind. School activities such as athletics and fine arts help in building responsible citizens who will one day be parents, employees, and contributing members of the society today. My volunteer experience to the football program has helped me become the person I am today. Thank you.
Bill Chidas. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Bill Chides. I'm an upcoming senior for the Vintage varsity football team. Playing football for Vintage has not only allowed me to grow as a better man, but to be a part of something so special. Moving here as a sophomore has been so influential for me and showed me the importance of being a part of a community. Before coming to the program, I always felt like community service was a chore, like something I had to do. Having to go out and volunteer for events was not something that I ever wanted to do, but now it's something I enjoy. Because the satisfaction I get knowing that I'm helping somebody and being a part of something so positive, so much bigger than myself. Being able to show my support alongside my team to the younger generation and members of this community through events like Cycle for Sight, in which we direct and guide parking at Justin, Bel Air / Browns Valley carnivals, where we watch kids laugh and smile and have a great time playing in their bouncy houses and just being with friends and family. And this weekend, we have the Napa Valley Marathon, which we do annually, where we set up and cheer on the people who participate in this event. This has become a standard for Vintage football every year to return and surpass the amount of love and support we get from this community every Friday night, which allows us to be successful on a regular basis. These events also allow us to build and bond as a team, and it also gets us in the groove and to demonstrate our work ethic, community building, and respect and responsibility. This is why I love being a part of Vintage Crusher football.
Nate Perry.
Hi, how's it going? My name is Nate Perry. I'm a lineman on the varsity football team. I love playing football for Vintage and Coach Leach, but there's also a part of being a football player we take a lot of pride in here at Vintage. We volunteer to give back to the community throughout the year. One of my favorite volunteering events that we have done was organized at the Senior Center. It was really just like a feel-good event, and we had a good time helping put it together, and the seniors had a good time having dinner with their friends. We acted as their waiters, and we helped serve them food and drinks, and this event has been annual since 2007, and it is every Thanksgiving. The best part of the whole event was definitely seeing the seniors have a good time and just seeing them enjoy themselves and being around younger children. These community service events help us set an example for the younger generation to see what being a crusher is all about. Personally, I feel that these volunteering events set me up for later on in life to give back to my community. The great Chicago Bears running back Walter Payton once said, "Too many of us only take, we don't give. Here at Vintage, we are proud to give back to our community."
Thank you. Fontaine.
Good evening. My name is Fontaine Stigerquist, and I teach at American Canyon High School. I'd like to take a moment to read directly from the California Department of Education's website that identifies the differences between quality physical education and physical activity. The terms physical education and physical activity are often used interchangeably, but they differ in important ways. Understanding the differences between the two is critical for understanding why both contribute to the development and healthy and active youth. Every student needs both a quality PE program and physical activity program. Physical education instructional programs provide students with the skills and knowledge they need to establish and sustain physical activity as a key component to their lifestyles as children, adolescents, and adults. The PE model content standards adopted by the State Board of Education involve overarching standards that provide a developmentally appropriate standard-based sequence of instruction. PE instruction provides students with essential skills and knowledge through a broadly based curriculum that is age-appropriate and links learning experiences in a sequential and articulated manner. Physical activity is any bodily movement that is produced by a contraction of skeletal muscles and that substantially increases energy expenditure, including exercise, sport, dance, and other movement forms. PE programs, recess periods, intramural sports programs, and athletic programs involve physical activity, but each serves a very different purpose. Intramural sports and athletic programs provide opportunities for students learning, but are not likely to constitute high-quality, standard-based PE instruction. Physical activity programs that students participate in outside of school are not the same as PE instructional programs. Such physical activity programs typically provide opportunities for students to develop skills in a single area and are not intended to provide instruction in the essential content area in the standards of PE. So why do I bring this information to your attention this evening? In a poll conducted by Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, which is the public health school of Harvard University, no more than 1 in 4 adults participate in a team-related sport. This means that a quality PE program is necessary to educate our students on lifetime fitness activities and ways to modify them over time as they age. I teach PE at American Canyon High School. Our department has continued to expand the curriculum to meet the needs of what current data tells us. At ACHS, we teach our students water safety, kayaking, snorkeling, water fitness, self-defense and kickboxing, weightlifting for fitness, how to design personal fitness programs to meet individual needs, how to analyze consumer fitness products, how to locate community fitness resources and events, and how to design personal home gyms to meet individual needs as they feel they need. As the district continues to restructure itself to meet the current issues it faces, I stand before you in hopes to educate you as to the importance of supporting quality physical education within this district. We can help shift our current obesity health crisis by supplying our students with the information and the tools necessary to avoid chronic health issues that arise from a lack of quality physical education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Michael?
Good evening. My name is Michael Ruprecht. Thank you for inviting me here, Mr. Pearson. I'm here on behalf of the Hero Foundation. I am the executive director. It's a nonprofit, been around for about 1.5 years now. And as far as what we do, a lot of our service projects and events and fundraisers are centered around what our immediate community gives to us as feedback that lets us know what are the most pressing issues at the time, so then we can go forth and create a service project that is like pivotal and important to the current time. So that being said, the death of Elena Housley doesn't need any introduction or clarification. If you live in Napa, you live nearby, you know anything about Napa, you probably knew her, loved her, and you were deeply affected by what happened. When this did happen, my team at the Hero Foundation, we put together a march. Some of you may have attended it. It was well attended. It's called the Heroes March, and it was in honor of Elena Housley, and it was protesting the absurd amount of gun violence that is taking our country by storm. And in the midst of all that, when we were putting that together, we spoke with the Housley family, we spoke with Mike Thompson, formulated this idea that a year later, we would go through a process in which we would rename and refurbish and create a memorial at the Vintage High practice soccer field in honor of Elena Housley. We've been doing fundraising. We have the sign already made. We've been in contact with the Vintage admins, and we've been in contact with the Housley parents. And this is something that, if it is to be given the green light, we have everything that we need to make it happen. We have no shortage of hands on deck ready to make it happen, community support, or tribe to do so. Like I said, the sign's already made, and we have the funding as of right now taken care of, but we will be willing to do more so in the future if need be. I'm just putting this out there as an offer. because we want to do this really badly. Thank you.
Mr. Whitberg? Mr. Whitberg? Hi, Dr. Massetti. We have board policy and administrative regulation around naming requests, and so I've taken down your information and staff will follow up.
Heidi Zippe.
Good evening. Hello, I'm Heidi Zippe from American Canyon. Good to see everybody. Came to your house instead of you coming to my house this time, although we do have choir concerts next week. Everybody's welcome Wednesday and Thursday evening at American Canyon High School. Talk to Jimmy Butler. So we've got some bad news coming in the school budget world this week, this year, this month. It happens. I understand these things. But here it is, the moment we've been dreading and fighting against for 2 years. And we, as representatives of the American Canyon parent community, felt compelled to come here and say our piece about the news this week of the formal elimination of the 7th period day at American Canyon High School. This elimination puts our students' access to our highly valued music, choir, band, drama, and other programs seriously at risk. And we know these programs are highly valued. We've talked about them repeatedly, most recently last week. So as I was reflecting on this over the last couple of days, it occurred to me that this is kind of like a season. And have you ever had a season in your life, in your family, when money was so tight and there wasn't any extra to go around? And it didn't seem like there's any way to have Christmas or a birthday party for your kid or any extra thing at all. So my family has had that season, and not really that long ago. Probably most of you know what I mean. And as parents, I think that's one of the hardest things, because you can't let your kids know that you're in that season, right? It's not fair to them. So you scrimp and you pinch and you sometimes dip a little bit into your savings and you find a way to make it work. So your kids still have the experiences that they will remember for the rest of their lives. So I think this is one of those moments. We in the district are in the down season. Nobody disagrees. Tough choices are being made. But I ask you as representatives of the community and these kids that you serve and that we educate, that we think a little bit about putting the kids before the money all the way. We think it's critical for our students to maintain access to elective programming throughout their educational careers. We just heard 3 students of the month talk about the importance of their sophomore electives at American Canyon High School. I don't have to say anything else. That's all of it. We have to find creative solutions to fulfill the need within a 6-period day framework so that our kids can have access to the programming that makes our school, makes their educational careers, makes them come to school, which we need them to do, and makes it worthwhile for all of us. I understand there's a problem. I know about the reserve. I have a savings account. But we have to find just enough money to have a birthday cake, just enough money to have a Christmas present, a 10th grade choir class, the band, the drama, the leadership, the AVID, all of these things. This is what makes our kids great. This is what makes our school great. This is what they will take forward. They've just shown you that. It's what separates them from the rest. I hope you understand what I mean. And I look forward to talking with you, some of you, more about that next week. Thank you.
Steve Green.
Evening. At the meeting we had last week, we prioritized programming over rigid adherence to a 7-period day. In discussion, we all floated many ideas about how we could retain the programming that defines our schools and community. This week we learned that because of funding challenges that make the funding 3 faculty positions impossible, ACHS is moving to a 6-period day. Though we fully understand the funding challenges, we are exceptionally concerned about equal access to programming, and that is considered elective because it's actually required for 20th century success, as you've seen tonight with Corey and Calvin. We are looking forward to the conversation next Monday in the AC, and we'll emphasize in that conversation that the same level of access to academic programming that was available under 7 periods be maintained under 6 periods. separate topic now. Because NVUSD is not funded adequately, parents have to pay out of pocket to support the curriculum. The ACHS Instrumental and Color Guard Boosters fund it raised just like all the other parent clubs. We're holding a big fundraiser this Saturday. It's not just a fundraiser. It's all, by the way, do come to it if you can. It's also a learning experience. ACHS Instrumental Music is partnering with the Northern California Percussion Alliance to host a judged competition which 21 schools from across the Bay Area and Central Valley are attending. And VSD approved the reservation for this event as an internal event at the end of the 18-19 school year. 3 days before our event, the district changed that status to external. Parents are now going to have to pay nearly $700, which will negate between a quarter to a third of the fundraising. In short, we're now in the hole before we start. There have been other weekend events and fundraisers this year where boosters charged admission and sold concessions as internal reservations. We understand financial pressures, but changing a previously approved status that benefits our kids' learning and growth while at the same time raising funds for what the district can't cover is counterproductive at best. The lack of coordination with the parents and faculty was also counterproductive. We would very much appreciate reconsideration of status changes to previously approved internal events for all schools. We also want to set up collaboration between the school district and parents to create a way to minimize costs while optimizing learning. We finally have an administration that has business sense as well as is customer focused, so we anticipate the coordination and engagement will go well to avoid these occurrences happening in the future. And I got 30 seconds left. Thanks. I think you've heard a lot from me over the last year and a half. I'll pass.
Thank you very much.
Matthew Wyatt.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Wyatt. I have a father of 2 at Napa Valley Language Academy and 1 student who is now at Harvest after being at NVLA for K through 6th. I just wanted to talk to you for a moment tonight about what a special program we have at NVLA, what a really wonderful school it is. I am not a native Spanish speaker, nor is my wife, but because of the opportunities that NVLA provides our family, my children are becoming bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural in a way that they would not be able to at other educational opportunities. Beyond just the language skills, the arts and enrichment programs that they have at NVLA provide an incredible education that is helping our children to grow up into well-rounded adults. I know that things are very hard in the district right now. Dr. Mercetti gave a very clear and cogent explanation of that last night at Harvest Middle School. And I know you guys are making a lot of difficult choices, and I would not want to be in your shoes. I just wanted to let you know that this is a very special school and that my wife and I are delighted our children were able to go there, and that I hope you are able to find some way to work with the school to preserve what makes it special. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Those are all the cards I have. I have 4 different additional agendized items on cards that are agendized for, excuse me. So we will proceed with the meeting. Reports, Board of Education and Student Board Representative.
All right, on February 5th, I attended our first student curriculum meeting. We discussed some of the initiatives we're currently working on in the district, like our task force around math and discipline. So that was very interesting meeting, and it sort of kicked off these brand new committees that we've been working on. And then on the 10th, I attended a meeting with the representatives from Yountville. On the 13th, a NAPS recognition reception. On the 20th, a math study session, which helped to illuminate a lot of areas for improvement in math instruction. On the 21st, a branding meeting. We narrowed down the logos to 2 and are now circulating those for community input. On the 24th, I attended an LCAP training in Sacramento put on by the CSBA, and they estimate that they may have shortened the document by half and claim to have improved the readability of the document substantially. And then on the 25th, I attended our first technology and facilities meeting. We had our first meeting to discuss some of the technology requests that are going to be on tonight's agenda, along with a discussion that briefly touched on how reserves work on construction projects. And then on the 26th, I attended the first coffee with the superintendent at Phillips, where Dr. Massetti ably answered a lot of tough questions from the over 50 people in attendance, and we were able to collect some community input on the 2 potential logos for our district.
I'm going to sound a little bit like Where's Waldo, because I've been to a number of places I haven't been before. I attended the a cappella extravaganza where ACH's PDA, the Napa High Vocal Music Workshop, and the Vintage Vocalettes performed. It was well done, well attended, had a great time. I attended the ACMS ELAC meeting, the SELPA Executive Committee, attended the grand reopening of the History Room sponsored by and worked on by the Napa High Alumni Association. I also attended the NAPS recognition event honoring our psychologists, speech therapists, and behaviorists. I attended the CAC meeting in American Canyon. It was lightly attended, but we had a constructive conversation. I appreciate Mike, the facilities maintenance and operation, rescuing the 5 basketballs from the roof of the ACMS gym, and while up there tending the vegetation which takes root in the gutters. So thanks. People notice. It's a good thing. And last Friday, I attended the FICMAT training on associated student body workshops for K-12 organizations covering fiscal controls, what you can and can't do, referring to California law, board policies, and delegated authority. The byword was pre-approval and 2 people with the cash at all times.
I also attended the CAC meeting. And for those of you not familiar with CAC, it's the parents and the county community advisory committee for special ed. And it was lightly attended, which has been a hallmark, yes, after having hosted the first meeting here in this room and having well over 60 parents, and we were hoping to kind of rally the troops, but a lot of good ideas. I also attended the math study session, the CSBA training on the funding process, funding formula, and the Phillips Elementary School coffee with the superintendent, which was very, very well attended, and I look forward to more. Thank you.
Well, I've been all over the place too. I'm feeling like Where's Waldo at? I went to 2 meetings at American Canyon Middle School where the superintendent discussed the path forward. I also attended the curriculum meeting on February 5th. I went to the NVEA meeting, saw you there, Gail. I spent one very lively day with our food service director, Brandy, where I went to 4 different schools. I felt like the Red Queen in Through the Looking Glass, where you have to run twice as fast, stay still, or something like that. We started out at Redwood with an organic, healthy, free breakfast tasting. Kids enjoyed very much. Went on to lunch at River. Then we went to see the progress of the new kitchens at McPherson and Shearer, and I was completely wasted at the end of it. She's exhausted. She seemed quite perky still. Then I attended a climate change meeting with assorted staff members, community members, and many students. And we talked about the things that the district is doing now and what can be done. I also went to the NAPS reception. That was great to see these folks be recognized. I attended the board policy committee meeting with some of you. I went out to Vichy School, which has no sidewalks, which is, we were studying the walking and riding possibilities, reducing, car trips. And, I was just a little, no sidewalks, I can see why people are alarmed about walking to school. Narrow streets, that sort of thing. Everybody parks illegally there, but I didn't, we didn't do anything about that. Because, there's no room to park legally. And let's see, I too went to a meeting about the math curriculum, and I did bring some things along here, folks, to read in your spare time if you want to know the history of the Common Core and how we got here. There you go. And I've got a couple extras. I also went to the LCAT meeting in Sacramento, attended the coffee with the superintendent at Phillips School. That was fun. And I went to the Napa High School crab feed, which was a lot of fun, great crab. And I'd like to thank the VHS students, who I'm sure are home doing their homework now, for all their community volunteering. It's great when our students do that. And I'd like to give a shout out to Marie Dulcini of Napa High School's JV girls basketball team, who are out doing a waterway cleanup and got recognized by the paper. Thank you. So it's been a busy couple of weeks.
I don't want to be terribly redundant because clearly we've all done a lot together. 2 American Canyon meetings, both very educational about facilities, the importance of some of the facility work that we are doing and that we need to do, integration of our new security and safety programs, the funding that's needed, just a really healthy dialogue surrounding funding opportunities. Went to a NCOE meeting, City of Yountville meeting, which we will discuss at a later time in this agenda, a NAPS recognition ceremony, which was fantastic, the math curriculum session, the branding meeting, the LCAP training, the facilities and tech meeting, had a tour of Vintage, coffee with the superintendent at Phillips Magnet, which, as everybody said, was really well attended. And I will say, just really engaged parents, well-articulated questions, a lot of enthusiasm for where we're going, and a lot of recognition of where we are. I was really impressed by the parent body. And kudos to the Vintage High football team and honestly all the kids that are out there in the community that are doing the good work that represents NVUSD so well. So thank you.
I'll just not mention the items that have been mentioned before. I'll just add my visit to Valley Oak High School. And it was just a really pleasure to tour with Principal Cisneros and walk through the classes at Valley Oak and really see firsthand the passion that our teachers have and the staff that are truly, very much dedicated to their students and the families. And I know recently they received recognition, so I was very just proud to be able to walk through the campus and see all that work. and looking forward to my next visits and the next round.
Okay, I attended also American Canyon Middle School to listen to parents. This past week, I recorded a video for American Canyon Middle School. It took me about 3 or 4 times to actually record. It was your bright idea, Dr. Massetti. I heard. So Mr. Scudero and Mr. Bobby put together a video sequence of various leaders in the Valley and to tell their story and in education. And so I told my story as being a Spanish English learner when I was studying abroad and those struggles that came about. And with that said, they said my story has been asked to be repeated 2 or 3 times. It's a quite interesting story because we don't get to hear those very often. But if you have time, I'm sure they're going to make it. They're probably going to have it on YouTube somewhere. So please be gentle. I missed coffee with the superintendent, not because I wanted to, mainly the work that I do is really early in the morning, so I cannot get away while I'm in education too, so I'm doing education with our farm workers. I'm a bad leader for giving the recommendation for all of you guys to go to LCFF and doing the training in Sacramento, and I'm the first one that didn't show up. So I do commend you all, and I thank you, but when Cal OSHA shows up at your site, you have to be there. So thank you very much. And then Dr. Massetti, her executive staff, and I met with Bill Dodd, and mainly, that was actually today, a couple of hours ago, and that was to express our frustrations with the state of California and the state that we find ourselves in with the declining enrollment and the high cost of pensions and how we're an LCFF district and how we're hemorrhaging from every single side of our body. So with that said, he had some ideas, and I thought it was a great idea to have the executive cabinet there to give the real data. So I couldn't do it alone by me just providing or having a meeting. I thought it would be kind of pointless if I just came in, gave him an idea, and I had no data or anyone to kind of drive that home for me. So I thought that with Rosanna's help and our executive team, it'd be such a better, we'd be in a better position to do that, and we did, and it was a great, productive meeting. And actively behind and following myself with the redistricting. I've been following Napa City Council meetings, going home, myself and Elba and some other colleagues, and familiar faces within leadership, Latino leadership here in the city of Napa. So we're looking at processes, procedures, and some really speedy timelines, and of course something we're going to be discussing in our agenda because we'll be affected by that as well. Great. Good evening, everyone who's watching us from afar as well. I want to thank everybody for their engagement as we do the important work of governance, especially in the current times that NVUSD is facing. So many of my trustees, we're all kind of following each other around at all these events. So, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing that as a team, we're engaging with the community and our staff in a variety of places and spaces as we get the message out around some of the challenges that NVUSD is facing, but also, like Trustee Waters said, defining what the path is to move forward. Because if there is a community that can move forward, we know it's the community here in NVUSD. So a few highlights. Like Trustee Gracia had said, the district did put together a branding committee that has completed its work as a branding committee. They have provided through some rigorous exercises, a facilitated process with a designer, 2 concepts for a future logo and new brand for the district. Many people might ask themselves, given what the district is facing, why is the district investing in any branding? It's really a nominal cost, and it's a necessary cost. Given what we're facing, it's absolutely critical that the district is positioned to market all of the great things that we do in NVUSD, our high quality teachers, our exceptional programs, and the amazing culture that we have here and strong connections between our communities and schools. We've got a branding survey out to parents, and so I want to thank all of the parents that have been providing feedback that's been going directly to the design team, and I look forward to unveiling the 2 concept proposals at our professional development day on March 13th to just get some
some, sort of raw temperature checks from our employees on that day. And I also want to thank the various groups. I worked with my parent advisory committee. Ms. Katie Aaron, who's here in the audience, serves on that. They gave us some great feedback as well. And it really was exciting also at the first superintendent's coffee that the trustees have alluded to also get a read from about the approximately 50 parents who attended there. I want to thank all the branding committee members for their work. It's really a rigorous process to kind of come to some consensus on how to create a visual and a logo and a brand that defines your organization and community. So I want to thank them for all of their efforts. And we'll be bringing the brand forward for board approval in March, the second board meeting in March. And then we'll start to use that brand and marketing package as part of our strategy to engage in enrollment stabilization. And so you have to have a really high quality brand when you look to, put your district's brand and market on billboards to buses to, staff wear. So we're excited about that work. I also want to address concerns from our parents and community. We've received several calls, and even from mostly parents, but even from some of our own internal staff regarding the coronavirus. And I wanted to let everybody know that the district has been closely monitoring the situation. We are in daily contact with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, our local public Office of Public Health. A communication went out to all NVUSD families this afternoon. Previous to that, a communication went out directly to our teachers. We are prepared to engage and enact any protocols that would be necessary and act swiftly and proactively if the need arises. I want to reassure everybody, my staff and myself have been preparing as we watch this situation closely. So I understand, I have a family, I understand the concern from parents around their children, but I do want to let you know that we are following the guidelines that are set forth by the California Department of Public Health, and we will continue to engage in the work to ensure that we're prepared and respond with the appropriate protocols. I also want to let everyone know, tonight is a very difficult there's some difficult agenda items here that are related to our staffing reductions. And I've been here, for the last almost 2 years now, and it's been an intense couple of years, or almost 2 years, 20 months, alongside my team to the right, who you'll be hearing from shortly. And it is, our most valuable asset in our organization is our people. Anytime that a district is facing the budgetary challenges and the work that we need to do in order to get the district the right size in response to the declining enrollment, adjustments that haven't necessarily been made in the past gradually and need to be made in one sort of, intense wave, it's really, really challenging. And I want to reassure everyone as we engage in the action items later in the agenda that it is by no means a representation that we undervalue our teachers. Our teachers are the most incredible, valuable asset to the educational outcomes of our children. And I have been blessed with the opportunity to serve in a school district where I visited so many of our schools, and I have seen amazing teaching and learning at work. So I just want to honor that. I want to name that in most of the spaces that I engage in with my teachers, the discipline task force, my teacher advisory. I've been really, really conscious to hold space around that because I understand the impact that that has on the teacher workforce, and it pains us to have to enact these sorts of actions. However, it's been said already, a lot of this is because of Sacramento and the California, the leadership here in California has continued to not prioritize education. Districts are underfunded. We are the 5th largest economy in the globe, and we continue to be in the lowest tier of per pupil spending in this first world nation, and that's simply not okay. So as part of my work in Goal 3 around advocacy, I am one of the superintendents on the California School Board Association Superintendent Advisory Council. I was there a couple of Wednesdays ago. I'm one of 12 superintendents on that council, represent small, medium, large districts, and I want you to know that 9 of the 12 districts are facing budget deficits. 9 of the 12 districts are either considering school closures and or enacting certificated and classified layoffs due to budget challenges. This is not okay. And we need to unite in these times, and we need to put pressure where the pressure is due, and that's on Sacramento to provide California schools with the appropriate level of funding so that we can educate our children. So I will continue to call for your support around that. It is absolutely critical. A couple of last things on that note. At the CSBA Superintendent Advisory Council, there was a lot of discussion around the state bond measure, Proposition 13, that is on the ballot for Tuesday's election. All I'm just letting everybody know, it's Proposition 13. It's very confusing, and it's often confused with the property tax measure, and it's not that. It is a state school facilities bond. If it passes, it will bring billions of dollars for California public schools that are in disrepair. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. And then the superintendent's coffee, the first one was an extraordinary experience. I want to thank all the trustees that attended. We did have over 50 parents there. Phillips did a great job of hosting. We had Spanish-speaking parents. We had English-speaking parents. Phillips was well represented, but there were folks that came from all over the district. We had parents from Willow, from Vintage, from Silverado, and it was just NVLA, Harvest. It was just great to see parents come out to have coffee and talk in a much more informal setting, and that's part of our strategic plan. We're about reciprocal, two-way, inclusive communication, and so I can't think of a better way to create that by making sure that your superintendent is available to you in those sorts of informal spaces to engage in meaningful dialogue around improvements here in NVUSD. So thank you for those that attended. The next one is on March 25th at Redwood Middle School. I don't know if Principal Christofferson knows that yet. I think Vera, did we call her? We're working on it. We're gonna go to Redwood Middle School next, so maybe she's watching. So we're excited to be there. So I encourage you to attend. It was 2 hours and it was really, really engaging. So thank you. And then also I want to let you know, again, aligned with Goal 3 of our strategic plan, I'll be doing my first State of the District on Tuesday, April the 21st from 9 to 11. We cannot open all of that to the community, but we will do elements of the presentation that are presented there at a public board meeting so that there is full access. We've asked principals to come and attend with 4 parent leaders that they work with on their school site, so we look forward to having the room mostly filled with about 150, mostly parents. This is really an event for our parents because we believe our parents are our clients and can serve as our ambassadors in this improvement work that we're doing in NVUSD. And then the last thing, we heard about Valley Oak. So they were awarded by the California Department of Education Model Continuation High School in the state of California. So They will be formally honored at an upcoming board meeting. We'll have Principal Cisneros and some of her staff here. And just the last thing, I did squeeze in a visit during the long President's Day weekend to Chicago to visit my daughter in 0-degree weather, but like minus 18 with wind chill. And I can't believe my kid's going to school in that kind of weather. In Chicago, they can really grit it out compared to Californians. They never cancel class, even when it's that cold. But I'm a better superintendent when I can squeeze in a visit with my daughter. So I'm glad that I had the 4-day weekend to be able to do that. So thank you very much, and I'll toss to my executive team.
All right, thank you. Well, first, I just want to give a shout out to someone from my office, Roseanne Crandall, who always teases me gently that she wants me to go do my report at the podium so that she could see me on camera and not just hear my voice. And lo and behold, we are now on camera, and I'm sure she's watching. So hi, Roseanne. And I want to thank the trustees who were able to come to the NAPS recognition this year. This was our first annual, and it was on February 13th, right before Valentine's Day. We wanted to show some love to our NAPS group. And this was something we realized as we were working on our Goal 2 celebrating staff contributions throughout the district, that we annually recognize our Educators Association, NVEA, and the teachers and counselors. We annually recognize our classified staff, but we were not recognizing our NAPS, who are our support personnel. And we thought that was a huge oversight. It's not that they never complained, they never brought it up, they never asked for recognition, which really kind of speaks to who they are. We just decided we needed to do that. So I want to highlight 4 of the people who, after we got a lot of nominations, we highlighted a few folks who were exemplary in their position, and I just want to say their names so everybody on YouTube can hear them. First of all, we recognize Dr. Corinne Gomez as a psychologist, Exemplary Psychologist of the Year, Manju Chaco for Speech Language Pathologist, Hannah Bales, who is a behaviorist, and actually she's a mental health clinician. She was a behaviorist, that's the category, and also Sonia Ortega, an outstanding social worker. So I also want to thank Leslie for helping us with that and her executive team, and my assistant Norris Tregoning for helping with that. I also want to give a shout out to our HR staff, because right now, as we're doing a lot of things that are kind of typical in the spring for HR, this is a really ramping up time of year. There's a lot of work to prepare for next year. We're also doing some fairly atypical things, and some of the items that Dr. Massetti alluded to that will come later in the evening. And at the same time, this group is working through a conversion of our software, the Escape program, from DS to Escape, and this is taking a tremendous amount of their time and attention, and they have to be very detail-oriented and focused on making sure that all of the records and information that we had in DS gets smoothly into the new system. So they've been troopers. They've just been pulling together, working as a team, and I just wanted to thank them, because it's a lot of work. It's going to be a much better system when we get on the other end, but we need to get there, and it's a difficult time to do it, but they're pulling through. So thank you.
For tonight's report, I'll focus on safety and technology-related items. Since the last board meeting, I worked closely with our security consultant to finish up our plan to design and purchase radios for daily and emergency communications. The plan for radios is on the agenda tonight. We feel that this plan is very robust for both daily and emergency use. The plan will provide district office and principals with the ability to communicate across the district and within each site. Our radio system will also allow our bus drivers to communicate across the district and will be HIPAA compliant, which means that they will be able to communicate with dispatch on a private channel. Users will also have the ability to communicate over a backup system on Crystal Communications towers. For technology, we'll see requests to purchase servers from Kavaris. This will provide us with the necessary and critical backup solution where we keep all of our district data. We will also place a server at the Alameda County Office of Education, which will replicate our data and allow us to continue to operate in the event of an emergency. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Ed Chen and RJ from ASG for the incredible work that they've done to fix our boardroom here and continue to make exceptional progress with our security cameras. I'd also like to throw in another item. I would like to thank the business office for the incredible work that they're doing in terms of working towards our second interim and the conversion over to Escape, which has been an incredibly heavy lift for the team. Thank you. This concludes my report.
Good evening, President Martin, NVUSD Board of Education Trustees, Dr. Massetti, and community members. I'm going to report on all the areas I oversee. With maintenance, we currently are using data for accountability. We have made all of our work orders visible to all the individuals on our trade, and that has improved our work order completion dramatically by making all this information visible to everybody. In operations, we've been working collaboratively with our CSE leadership to establish a consistent time and standards for cleaning rooms, bathrooms, and those sorts of things. And we have some great work that we've have presented to our CSE leadership collective bargaining agreement team. In addition, we've also been working on light maintenance standards for our custodians to partake in, and this has also been a collaborative effort with our CSE leadership. With the Transportation Department, we've also been working collaboratively to reduce our athletic transportation costs, and so we will be having proposals coming forward to using more yellow buses next year to transport athletes to and from games. Under food services, we recently established a number of collaborative meetings with the central kitchen managers, essential kitchen staff, and then bi-monthly meetings with the cafe managers to increase communication and leadership amongst the group members. We're excited on March 12th at 5 p.m. We'll be having a food service board study session. We'll be having members of the Chef Ann Foundation come and present a follow-up of their assessment. Under facilities, it was mentioned about the Climate Action Committee that we've had one meeting. The operational services teams shared the actions currently implemented to conserve, reduce, and recycle throughout our entire district. And I think members who attended that meeting were rather surprised at the number of things we do already as a school district to, again, conserve, reduce, and recycle. The second meeting is March 10th, and the goal is to have some short-term opportunities to start implementing in August of 2020. And then I think you received an invite, but if you haven't, you'll be shortly receiving an invite to our grand opening at River Middle School on March 10th at 7 p.m. And then under the Measure H bond program, you'll be taking action tonight on an updated Measure H implementation plan. And we'll have a short presentation before you take action. And then you'll also be taking action tonight to hopefully approve a new member to our bond oversight committee for Measure H. That concludes my report.
Mr. Pearson, there is not a facilities and bond program update, correct?
Okay. Thank you. Approval of consent agenda. Background information on these items is provided to the board prior to the meeting. A common motion takes action without discussion on a roll call vote unless discussion of items is requested by the board members.
I'm requesting that we pull I3D. But otherwise would motion to approve all the rest of them.
So I have a first by Mr. Gracia and a second by Mr. Shunk. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, roll call. Sorry.
Trustee Martin?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares? Aye. Trustee Jankowicz? Aye. Trustee Water? Aye. Trustee Hurtado? Aye. Trustee Shunk?
Aye.
And Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
I3D, agreements between NVUSD and the Tulare County Superintendent of Schools for California Friday Night Live.
My concern with this item is not with the Friday Night Live program, but mostly just with the contracts that we're being asked to approve that have started between 4 and 7 months ago and are now merely 4 months away from ending. I feel like this is putting the board in a tough spot because if we had a problem with these agreements, then we would be disapproving potentially of these agreements after they've been operational for between 4 and 7 months. So my concern is just that we try to see if we can get these earlier than what we have been getting them.
Thank you for sharing your concern, Trustee Gracia. This contract has been sort of rolling over annually in the district. The Friday Night Live program is a very popular program, and I have committed to the board vis-a-vis tonight's meeting. I will look into it. I know the Tulare County Office of Education sends them in the spring, even though the program is running earlier than that. So I have to just drill down a little bit and see with the Tulare County Office of Education that sponsors this service, what's going on with the timing around that. So I'll look into the matter for the future. So thank you.
With that, I'll move to approve.
First by Mr. Gracia, a second by Mr. Shunk.
Roll call. Trustee Martin?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares?
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz?
Aye.
Trustee Water?
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado?
Aye.
Trustee Shunk? Aye. Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
Presentation and discussion items. J1, General Services. J1A Community Leaders Coalition Public Charge Presentation, the health and well-being of immigrant families.
I want to quickly just set a little bit of context. I want to welcome the Community Leaders Coalition. The individuals who are presenting tonight will introduce themselves. I do want to set some context that the material that's going to be presented tonight very much aligns with the Napa Valley Unified School District Strategic Plan around Goal 3, robust communication, community engagement, and advocacy, and also around our Goal 5, which is equity-centered leadership and inclusive organizational culture. Today we'll hear about the importance of understanding the public charge rule and the impact that it can have on our immigrant families in the district. Also, the presentation that you'll hear tonight will provide the board and the public information that aligns with our board policy 0410, non-discrimination in district programs and activities. The Board of Education is committed to providing equal opportunity for all individuals in district programs and activities. District programs and activities and practices shall be free from unlawful discrimination, including discrimination against an individual or group based on race, color, ancestry, nationality, national origin, immigrant status, ethnic group identification, ethnicity, age, religion, and the list continues. And so with that, I want to thank our guests for coming tonight to inform our school board and the community around the public charge rule and how it impacts our families. And I also want to thank Trustee Gonzalez Mares, who played a key leadership role in facilitating the connection between NVUSD and the coalition.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Alicia Hardy. I'm the CEO of Olay Health, and I'm here on behalf of the Community Leaders Coalition. And thank you for that introduction. This is an issue that affects not only the school district. I'd like to share a few anecdotes from what we're seeing in healthcare, as well as the community overall. So thank you.
And my name is Alicia Abdo. I'm the Executive Director of On the Move, and I'm here on behalf of the Community Leaders Coalition today. We'd like to thank you all, the Napa Valley Joint Unified School District Board of Education and Superintendent Dr. Musetti, for the opportunity to present today. We're looking forward to sharing important information with you about the challenges that immigrant families are facing in our community. Sorry, I'm going to get back against that. Is that Sorry. Okay, I'll just keep going. In today's presentation, we will address the public charge rule, primarily what it is, why it's important to know about, and the current status of the rule change. The chilling effect that proposed policy changes like public charge have on immigrant families' health and well-being, potential impacts on families in your school district, and recommendations on how to mitigate the negative consequences that the immigration policy environment is having on families, and how we as a community can support them. We're here presenting on behalf of the Community Leaders Coalition, also known as the CLC. The CLC was formed in 2016 in response to a changing policy environment and a desire to advocate for subsequent needs locally. The Community Leaders Coalition mobilizes community leaders to collectively advocate through civic engagement opportunities for the needs of vulnerable populations throughout Napa County. We currently have over 35 nonprofits, faith-based groups, local government, and other community leaders involved in our 2 chapters, with 1 chapter in Napa and American Canyon and 1 up Valley. Some of the CLC members that you may be familiar with include our organizations, On the Move and Olay Health, and also Puertas Abiertas, Immigration Institute of the Bay Area, just to name a few. Some of the current issues that the Community Leaders Coalition is working on include the implementation of the Voters' Choice Act, which includes increasing voter turnout amongst underrepresented voters, and also Census 2020, and reaching hard-to-count populations. Today, we are here to talk to you about one of the CLC's primary focus areas, which is to advocate for the needs of immigrant families. Our Protecting Immigrant Families Subcommittee stays at the forefront of policy decisions that affect immigrants and mobilizes partners, resources, and outreach strategies to advocate on behalf of our families in Napa County. In early 2017, one of the first actions when the committee joined was leading the efforts to establish an immigration proclamation at the county and city levels to show the value and the contribution that immigrants bring to our community. Over the last year, we've been working to oppose or mitigate policy changes negatively impacting immigrants, primarily a new public charge rule, the focus of our presentation tonight.
So tonight we're here to talk to you specifically about these proposed changes and not the definition of public charge and how that has changed, but maybe even more importantly, what we're calling the chilling effect. So regardless of the actual definition and the changes that will happen, sort of the fallout and the effect that we're seeing in the community in terms of how people are responding because of this fear of the change. So public charge is essentially a test that is used by immigration officials to decide who will be granted a green card or legal permanent residency in the United States. And traditionally, if you think of a public charge, that is that person that may become dependent on government programs if they were to come into our country. And historically, that definition has been more narrow, so someone who is receiving cash aid or extremely dependent on the government. And what this new definition has done is really broaden that to take in many more factors, including education level, financial status, health, age, whether or not you're using more government-sponsored programs such as Medi-Cal, for example, health insurance, or CalFresh food stamps. And so, all of that is really just making people question whether or not they should continue to use those benefits. This new rule that has been published in August of 2019 really is changing how decisions are being made and has a real impact on our community. But just to clarify, those programs, are still many programs that are not affected by this rule. That includes Medi-Cal used by children under 21, pregnant women or emergency services, as well as WIC, the school lunch program, breakfast programs, or emergency disaster relief. The programs that are affected, however, are the Medi-Cal program for people over the age of 21, CalFresh, as I said, food stamps, cash assistance, cash aid, TANF, SSI, anyone in Section 8 housing, federal public housing, or institutionalization for long-term care at government expense. So there are quite a bit of programs that are affected, and our job is to try to educate and help people understand the difference between those that are affected and those that are not affected.
On January 27th of this year, the Supreme Court ruled to lift the nationwide injunction on public charge rule. Public charge rule changes went into effect earlier this week on February 24th and only applies to applications postmarked on or after that date. It's important to note that while the rule changes are going into effect, the fight is not over. The legal battles continue at the circuit court levels. When it was announced by the federal government that the public charge rule would go into effect, the Community Leaders Coalition rolled out a rapid response plan that included important messaging and training of over 300 trusted messengers, including 125 county employees, on how to help families navigate those changes. Our next phase of work is to engage schools and local cities, which is why we're here today.
So to speak just for a moment about the chilling effect that I was talking about, public charge is really only one, unfortunately, of a range of proposals across government agencies that's making it harder for our immigrant families to legally enter or stay in the United States or ultimately become U.S. citizens. These policies are primarily targeted at people of low income status or immigrants of color. And so this chilling effect that we're seeing, and again, I know we're here to speak about our school district, and in the next slide I'll address those numbers and data in a moment, but from the healthcare side, I can say it's been really drastic to see the effect just even since this first rule was proposed to today. So most of our families at Ole Health receive Medi-Cal, and so at the health plan level, that Medi-Cal health plan, they've seen a disenrollment to the extent that they've never seen in the history of the health plan, and unfortunately the fastest group of folks that are disenrolling are kids. And so what that means is we're seeing, and that is, again, that category of people that are not affected, right? You're here, you were born in the United States, you qualify for Medi-Cal, it will have zero impact on anything, but because we have many families who are mixed status households, or there's fear of being, if a parent is not here with legal status and a child is, they still want the family overall to have no tie to a government program. And so we're seeing that disenrollment happening. It really does have a big impact on someone's health and well-being. So just to give one example, a pregnant woman who comes in, and again, under emergency Medi-Cal, she's 100% qualified for coverage. She can have a prenatal care, a safe birth. We're seeing, we had a woman who refused to take Medi-Cal for her pregnancy because of this fear. And so these are just a few little anecdotes of what we're seeing and why we're so concerned about the broader impact this could have on our community. Okay. So go to the next slide about, we're really, when we talk about the threats and the proposed changes, the access to healthy, nutritious food and secure housing, and just the access to basic resources. We have heard, again, also anecdotally, and we're trying to figure out as a CLC, how do we look at this data and see what's happening in our community in real time. But the school lunch program doesn't have anything to do with public charge, and yet we're seeing families who may not participate in this program because, again, that fear or lack of information or education about the true change. So when we try to identify what that means for NVUSD, if we look at, an estimated 3,529 students, or 1 in 4 students in the district, could be at risk for not participating in these programs. And we took this number, trying to look at who is designated as an English language learner out of the total population. It looks like it's about 21%. But again, it's hard to really anticipate because there's the people that may be at risk and people who, again, just might have fear. We don't really know what the full fallout will be from this change.
Many of you know that we operate family resource centers at 3 campuses for Napa Valley Unified School District, and I asked, our family resource center coordinators to give me a sense of what they were hearing, and that they have said that they've had, 2 and 3 times the number of individual conversations with different families, sometimes the same family over and over again, specifically afraid and fearful and wanting us to go back over the information again, specifically about how this will impact them and or anyone in their household.
So we're really hoping to be a partner with the school district from the CLC perspective, be a resource of how we can help support any messaging to the families, and despite what's happening at a federal level in regard to immigration policy, really come together at the local level and support our family and community in any way that we can. So I think messaging, again, we've really focused on training and messaging across the board of how we can make sure that people have accurate information when they're making decisions. So we would like to ask the school district to share our vetted messaging and information about public charge and about the free reputable services that can be consulted via your own information channels. For example, the website, put it on your website, put it in your newsletters, make sure that this is something that is out there and broadly shared. The school bulletin board. We ask that the school district would provide families with specific information, very specifically and explicitly, I would say, that free and reduced lunch will not affect their immigration status. Our kids need to eat so that they can learn. We don't want anyone refusing food because of this misinformation. And we'd also like to ask that you could send home a letter to families, letting them know where they can get access to information and resources to support their health and well-being. And we've provided a template in English and Spanish for you in the information packet.
So we also recommend training school staff who regularly interact with families about the public charge rule, but also on the chilling effect, and that the rules such as this are having on our immigrant families. It would focus on how to better support immigrant families facing the chilling effect in a way that fosters trust and understanding. We know staff have many requirements and limited time, so the Community Leaders Coalition is available to come to staff meetings and share and answer questions. We recently trained over 150 trusted messengers countywide to assist us with this. The next recommendation that we have is it's important to be aware of any local trends that the chilling effect may have on the health and well-being of immigrant families. This information will support us in identifying and addressing the growing unmet needs in the community in real time. We recommend monitoring the following, and we know that you do this closely. Any drops in free and reduced school lunch programs, increases in housing challenged families, and or student homeless rates. And despite access to information, families still may choose to disenroll benefits or not seek essential services. The chilling effect that we described is real. As a community, this includes school districts, local government, nonprofits, faith-based leaders, and community members. We need a collective convening to discuss how we will continue to support the health and well-being of immigrant families. If families do not have access to benefits and services, what is the alternative? Maybe it's additional food pantries at the school. Maybe it's additional health fairs. The Community Leaders Coalition is setting out a two-part process to develop a coordinated local response. This two-part process is CLC trusted messengers are using human-centered design approaches to learn more about what families themselves see as an alternative and solutions, and will use this information to inform the second part of the process, which is convening local stakeholders to start working toward alternatives and solutions grounded in the wisdom of the community itself. As the CLC will support and organize the local convening, our ask of you is that the school district be present and at the table during these discussions planned for the spring of 2020. We would like to thank you for your time this evening, and we know that you have many priorities and mandates. Your willingness to allow us to present and in already showing the positive things that can come out of a difficult situation, and that we know together, with your help, we can better support the immigrant families in our community that make our community a special and wonderful place.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Board of Trustees, this is a discussion item, so if you have any questions.
I've got a few clarifying questions. Under messaging, send home the letter. Who would the letter be coming from?
Hopefully you.
Okay. I think we can make a separation between those who advocate, which I look to you guys to do, and us as a conduit. I'm not sure I want to get into anything beyond the viewpoint neutrality we normally have to adhere to. So I think our role is referring people to experts like yourself rather than becoming the experts. So I have no problem on page 11 transparently reporting, and God knows a couple times a year we're talking about the progress around our lunch program, or getting a report on the homeless student population, but I'm not sure what you're asking for beyond us making the data available.
I think what we're asking for is to partner with us in educating our communities and our families. So, you know, on the healthcare side, it's actually quite more complex. We do have some messages that our frontline staff feel comfortable sharing, and others where we would refer to an immigration attorney or another expert. The free and reduced lunch program is so clear. It has zero impact, and so just one statement that's endorsed by the district that says, please continue to participate, would go a long way, because you are a trusted source of information for our families.
Okay. Yeah, the school lunch program may be the clearer of the lot, but I think we're going to have trouble teasing out the effect of what you're concerned with the normal ebb and flow and declining enrollment that we're experiencing. There are lots of reasons why our lunch participation might go down that have nothing to do with the concerns you've articulated. It's probably mixed in there. I'm not going to deny that. So I guess I just want to see the district stay in our lane and refer people who do a better job of connecting people with programs that aren't our primary responsibility.
And Mr. Shunk, I certainly hope that that's going to be part of the partnership.
Right.
Between the group and the district, so that
and
so
perhaps I'll learn more at the spring 2020 contact.
A singular voice, as it were, to provide services and access to students who might turn away from programs that they're eligible for.
But there are things we could do. The food thing really worries me. Have we ever in any of our schools ever had food pantries for parents? Do you ever have them at the resource centers?
We do not have actual food pantries, but we're working with the CanV for some time on helping to bring those resources. But we obviously help connect families to food resources through Ole Health, through the food bank, and a variety of other resources. Sometimes we do food gift cards in emergency situations. But yeah, we do support that through the family resource centers.
We are about to, there's been a request for a food pantry, the food bank to come to American Canyon Middle School. Is going to start that. We're going to pilot a program there. After school.
Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you very much.
So I will say that by adding, I think, the partnership from the school district, there was a flyer that was created, and it was really important to have, for example, the County of Napa logo on it. It sends a really strong message to the community partners, to the community, to the members of our immigrant population to see that there's a logo that they recognize that is government, because I think that's what's speaking here, is that government entities are right now seen by the immigrant community because of public charge as something that's worrisome to them. And education is a public program. And we even ChalStart, that is federally funded, has seen families want to decline having their kids enroll in the ChalStart program. And it's not even one of the listed items of being affected. So that's where the chilling effect is coming in. So seeing the partnership between the school district and a topic like this one, saying that this is safe for you to enroll in, and hey, we are also saying it's safe for you to go to these entities that, yes, they're well known in the community, but there are people, especially in the immigrant community, that go into hiding when this happens, and that are really afraid and skeptical with good reason as to where they can go to. And they trust our schools so much. And so when the school, with that trust and connection that they have with the parents and the community and the caregivers, I think there's definitely an opportunity for us to send a really strong message and letting our families know that it's okay to be enrolled in these programs that our children depend on. Because when kids have health insurance, they miss fewer days at school because they have a medical home to go to. And then also their parents miss fewer days at work because their kids are at school and healthy and accessing all the preventive care services they need. And to see that children are disenrolling from programs like this, and yes, there may be other factors like housing and people may be leaving Napa and whatnot, but anecdotally, we are seeing the numbers rising, and let's be more proactive about it versus reactive about it. So,
Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you.
So the policy item. Did you want to move it? Let's do that one. No, let's just finish J1. Okay. J1B, Introduction to California School Board Association Recommendation Policy Updates, Discussion Items.
Wait a second.
Policy. J1B.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm on.
Yes.
This is Joe, Alba, and Cindy.
yes, I believe it's my duty to report out, or among all of us. We did have our policy committee meeting on February 13th that many of the board members alluded to earlier today. In that policy committee, we had a stack of hard copy of our board policies as well as our administration and regulations. And then we also had a chance to review them and literally see through track changes what changes and updates need to happen that reflect right back to the CSBA recommended policy updates. And if Many of you who are in the room may not recall, but this is now a standard regular practice of our board, and part of our strategic plan to make sure that we have our policies up to date. And there's been a tremendous effort done by several of our board of trustees and our superintendent and staff to go through those. And the other item that we talked about is that was addressed towards the end of the school year last year was the discussion of, was it the flagpole?
And Trustee Gonzalez, we have that agendized as the latter part of the
As
report.
the latter part, okay.
Yep, later in the agenda. These policy updates are just a discussion item for a first read for the school board. Like Trustee Gonzalez Mares stated, CSBA puts out quarterly updates, so the policy committee on the 13th did the first round of updates that have happened since we adopted our overhaul of all policies. And so the policy committee got to work on that first round of updates. They'll be working on 2 rounds of updates in the upcoming meeting. But what we'll do, our practice will be to bring, after policy committee reviews them, then we'll bring them for first read to the broader board, introduced by the trustees that sit on the policy committee, like Trustee Gonzalez Mares just did. And you can discuss them if you have any questions, and then they'll be taken for action at a subsequent meeting. So you'll see these same policies in the action section of the agenda on March the 12th.
Thank you.
And I would just add, you've all been on the board a while now. A lot of it is legislative, court cases. It's the usual sort of technical updates. I think the only board policy we spent some time discussing in any real length was 5123, promotion, acceleration, and retention, to get a little wordsmithing done about how we referred to grade levels. But most of the rest of it was pretty routine.
Okay, we'll move to K, action items. And before we get into our action items, I wanted to, seeing that we have many people in the audience, something distracting.
Something my old car would do. So it's not alarming.
Are there children in the parking lot?
Flying saucer.
Someone's doing donuts in the parking lot. Yeah. I would like to move, and this is with, of course, the board, if we can move all of K3 to above to K1A. Before K1A, excuse me. We want our teachers who are here to get a good night's rest.
I'm good with that. Do we need a motion?
Yes.
I'll move to
Second.
So I have a first by Ms. Gonzalez Mares and a second by Ms. Jankowicz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay. And K3A, Resolution 2021, Human Resources Reduction or Discontinuance of Particular Kinds of Services. I do have Gail Young speaking for all 3 items.
I love mics. Hello, school board, Dr. Massetti, staff, wonderful audience, and whoever's watching. I'm here tonight because I normally don't get up and talk as president of the Teachers Union. I think that we've got a great relationship. We're able to discuss items. We're open. We talk about interests. But tonight on the agenda, there's an action item that lists the reduction of 101 permanent credentialed positions. There's also an item that lists the reduction of 44 temporary positions. That's 145 employees. 145. That's 16% of your total certificated employees. We realize the numbers are inflated because secondary schedules are not complete and because Ed Code requires that credentialed employees are notified by March 15th. We know that the permanent positions being reduced will be closer to 60. But that doesn't make it any less painful for those 145 employees. I've seen the financial reports, and I know the history behind many of the decisions that have brought us here. I believe these decisions were based on the circumstances and the time, and made in the spirit of wanting the best for students and the employees of the district. In that spirit of making the best decisions for students and employees, my members, will you please stand up? And we have more, but they're at home sleeping. My members and I, your certificated employees, have expressed some interests, and I need to share them with you. We have an interest in job stability, knowing we've got work to go to and a paycheck to live on. We have an interest in making a living wage, being able to live in a town that we work and to make ends meet. We have an interest in quality education, having the resources and training to do the very best for our students. We have an interest in safety, being able to do our jobs without physical harm. We have an interest in adequate facilities, spaces to teach that don't have structural problems. We have an interest in fiscal solvency. State takeover is not an option. We're angry that our current time and circumstances require a mass layoff. Angry and frustrated. Frustrated that the funding levels for our district from the state of California does not cover the cost of educating our students. Now, I know a bond is a great idea, state bond, local bond, but a bond only serves facilities, hard, tangible assets. We need something else. What can we do together to ensure adequate funding for our schools? The future of our district and our community depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Those are all the cards I have for K3. K3A, Resolution 20-21, Human Resources Reduction of Discontinuance of Particular Kinds of Services, action item. Looking for a...
I will reluctantly move the item. This isn't the first time I've seen a resolution like this. It is painful each time we do it. And some of it is, as so well articulated, part of the ed code dance that we seem to do almost every year. So I've made the motion.
I have a first by Mr. Joshunk.
I'll second. It's not something that we want to have to do year after year, and unfortunately, things that maybe could have been held by some natural attrition or more proactive action in prior years when declining enrollment sort of became more apparent has caught up with us now. And so now we have to act to right the ship and right-size the district. So we do have to do this because it's financially necessary.
Well, I want to add something. I used to teach next door, and I remember going through this a couple of times. And I was a union rep, and people would get the letter that they were that they might not have a job next year. And a lot of times they did, but some people didn't, and it was very traumatic. People weeping in my room. D7 was sanctified by teachers' tears. And in preparation for the Master's in Governance course I'm taking tomorrow, I had some background reading, and I love that. And one was an article by Linda Darling Hammond, published about what we need to do because there is a shortage of teachers in California. Well, one thing we need to do is make the profession more secure. It's very hard to entice, lively, idealistic, energetic, intelligent young people into a profession that, on March 15th, they can pour their heart's blood into their classroom all year long, doing their best for their students, and then, boom, we do this to them. I was reading the article and throwing it across the room and then going over and picking it up again and reading some more and throwing it across the room, and it's just, I don't know, I think I'm going to grouch about it tomorrow because this is just terrible. It's terrible.
I have a first by Mr. Shunk and a second by Mr. Gracia.
May I first?
Yes, Mr. Hurtado.
So 43 years ago, as a first-year professor at Napa Valley College, I received a pink slip. And to this day, I feel awful. I've been asked several times by people in the community if the mascot or the football controversies at Napa High were the hardest decisions or the hardest issues that I've had to face in my tenure as a board member. And I tell them no, that those were easy. The hard things are the ones that affect people, the ones that affect students, the ones that affect our teachers and classified staff. I know the feeling of wondering whether or not my last paycheck in June was the last paycheck I would receive as an educator. I was one of the fortunate ones who got called back, but to this day, somewhere in my memory box, I have that letter. I have that pink slip, and I keep it because it was one of the most traumatic events that I had to go through. So please don't think that I think I can speak for my fellow board members, that we don't take this seriously and with a lot of thought. It is, in fact, the hardest thing. I think that pushed me into my role as a union member. I was a union president for almost 20 years at the college. I was lead negotiator, and I got followed home several times in the good old days. But just remember that there are people on this board who support you in every way we can. You should put your speech. I think it's already going to be on YouTube. It's a battle cry. We get battered by parents, by our legislators, by just about everyone else who wants to gripe about taxes. But our legislature, for the past 40 years, has neglected to develop appropriate methods of funding their schools. So we have to resort to bonds, which are burdens on our community. We have to wait for COLAs to help pay our teachers a living wage. And we do that, and yet we have outstanding teachers in our system. It's a credit to your group and to our district that we can do what we do with all of the non-academic educational barriers that are thrown in front of us. So thank you.
It's a roll call.
Yes.
Trustee Martin?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares?
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz? Trustee Water?
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado?
Aye.
Trustee Shunk?
Aye.
Trustee Gracia?
Aye.
Item K3B, Resolution 2022, Human Resources Release, Reassignment of Administrators.
I'll move for the approval of this item.
First by Mr. Hurtado, a second by Mr. Shunk.
Roll call. Trustee Martin?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares?
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz? Trustee Water?
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado?
Aye.
Trustee Shunk?
Aye.
Trustee Gracia?
Aye.
K3C Resolution 2023, Human Resources Release of Temporary Certificated Employees Document.
I'll move.
A first by Mr. Gracia, second by Ms. Gonzalez Mares.
Roll call, Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz. Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk.
Aye.
Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
Nope.
K3D Resolution 2024, Human Resource Non-Reelection of Probationary Certificated Employees.
So moved.
First by Mr. Gracia. And a second by Mr. Hurtado.
Roll call, Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz. Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk.
Aye.
And Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
Okay, we go back to K1, K1A, excuse me. Adoption, Resolution 2026, Resolution of Intent to Transition to by-district trustee elections from November 2020 elections. And I do have a few speaker cards for this. Gladys Castillo.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Musetti. In regards to this resolution pertaining to the district switching to district-based elections, I just want to point out that in American Canyon, based on the U.S. Census, 2010 census, that the majority of that community in American Canyon is the Asian population that includes Filipinos. And so I just want to encourage, if this resolution gets through, for the district to engage in the Filipino community to learn about what is district-based election, and if this resolution is adopted, that it's vital information for them to know that instead of a county at large electing a district representative for them, that now a district representative could represent all of American Canyon, and much of that population is Filipino. And I was just thinking of ways to engage in the Filipino community in learning about this, about district elections, district-based elections. And one of the ways I think that you can engage, for this district to engage the Filipino community, is to have like Tagalog translations. The Filipino population has a lot of languages and dialects, but the main language that is spoken here in the States and in California is Tagalog. And so it would be I think our Filipino population in American Canyon would be so grateful to get that information on your site or on your Facebook page, just to inform what is actually district-based elections. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Gary Orton.
I'd like to ask first if there's going to be a presentation, and if so, whether the public could respond, could address the board after the presentation?
Now's the opportunity.
Pardon me?
Now is the opportunity around this item.
Oh, will there be a presentation?
I will be setting some context around the resolution.
Okay. Madam President, honorable trustees, Superintendent Musetti, my name is Gary Orton. I live in Napa and am a member of the steering committee of the Napa County Progressive Alliance. We are a group of local residents who seek to work with Napa County's diverse communities to promote social justice, community-based economics, environmental sustainability, and good government reforms. In all our activities, we make it a priority to address the needs and concerns of those who have been disadvantaged by the system. We applaud the school district's thoughtful consideration and prompt response to our petition and staff's recommendation to proceed with district-based elections. It is important that the voice of the protected groups whose voices have been diluted by at-large elections be heard, and that they be given the chance to have some influence at what goes on at these meetings. Furthermore, I can personally attest, having run my own election campaigns, that smaller election populations encourage grassroots candidates and of those who refuse to rely on large donations from corporations or businesses, because campaigns costs are reduced, a policy also supported by the Napa County Progressive Alliance. I'd like to point out that this is a crucial year to have the district elections for the following reasons. One, there is a synergistic effect from the increased public awareness and press coverage generated by the City of Napa's current similar effort to hold district elections in November. The 90-day mapping period prescribed by the California Voting Rights Act resulted from the request of the League of California Cities, because that was the average mapping time, and because experience showed that it was difficult to sustain public engagement in mapping beyond that period. Two, the turnout will be higher in non-presidential election years, creating a favorable environment for increased participation in trustee elections, because many voters who have been discouraged to vote in local elections will be voting because of the presidential election. Three, it may be hard or expensive, or both, to find demographers in 2021 to conduct the hearings required to change the school district from at-large to district-based elections. That is because of the increased number of government agencies since the California Voting Rights Act came into effect in 2003. In 2021, all those agencies will be seeking assistance of the limited pool of demographers to make district boundary adjustments required every 10 years throughout the United States. Because the Filipino community in American Canyon is the protected group that formed the basis of our petition, we believe it essential that you hold one of the pre-map hearings in American Canyon. We also request you consider adding a community hands-on map-making workshop to the mandatory 4 hearings as did the City of Napa. Knowing you are all seekers of positive change and possessors of goodwill, Napa County Progressive Alliance is confident that after careful consideration of the facts and law, you will adopt a resolution of intent to transition to district-based elections by the November 2020 election. It is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Fish.
Thank you. I think that we should have district elections. One of the reasons is for several times in recent years, the Board of Education elections have been canceled because no one filed to run against different candidates. I think if we did it by districts, there would be more interest. And I think American Canyon especially needs their own representatives, because the interests of American Canyon and the interests of Napa are often at odds. And like in this current situation, you talk about declining enrollment and declining revenue, but that's for Napa, because Superintendent Musetti came and talked with us about this. Napa, American Canyon is still growing. Our revenues are covering our costs, but we are still suffering from the district at large. So like in Proposition H, we were promised a new middle school. We still need a new middle school, but now there's not enough funds to run it once we built it, apparently. And it's just one thing after another like that, where we are losing our 7th period, our electives, our teachers, but it's not because American Canyon isn't paying its own way. It's because Napa County has a declining enrollment, which is, I think, because they do not want to build affordable housing in Napa. Every time we have an affordable housing opportunity in Napa, people fight against it. Just like with the 8 acres there at the Health and Human Services old campus on Old Sonoma Road, the proposal was, let's put in affordable housing, and all the neighbors got all upset because, it might lower their housing costs. So what's been the tradition in Napa County is there are state mandated affordable housing allotments, and Napa always gives them to American Canyon. You build the affordable housing, we'll give you a little bit more land, And so we have a growing population, we have enough income, and we are suffering because that's why our traffic's so bad. Everybody's going through American Canyon because they have jobs here, but they can't afford to live here. So that isn't really your fault. And this has been a really sad day, everything from expelling students to firing teachers. But I would really hope that we would vote for and go ahead for districts on the Board of Education. I think it would be helpful. It would get more people involved. Okay, thank you.
For the record, American Canyon schools are also declining.
It's all bad.
Eve Reiser.
Thank you all for being here this evening and for the important work you do on behalf of our kids, and for the opportunity to share my thoughts with you this evening. My name's Eve Reiser. I'm a 20-year resident of Napa Valley and a parent of 2 daughters in the school district. And I'm here to express my appreciation that tonight you're considering transitioning from at-large to by-district representation for the election of our school district trustees. And also that you're considering making this transition in time for the upcoming election in November. And I just wanted to speak briefly in support of making that transition. I think that this will provide a better model for community representation on the school board, and it has many potential benefits. I think it will encourage an increase in local involvement in our school governance. It'll be a less daunting task for people interested in the school board to run for a seat if new candidates only need to introduce themselves to a smaller subsection of our community rather than to voters across the whole county. I believe this would also result in a field of candidates and a boost to grassroots participation in local government. In a broader field of candidates is what I meant to say. Residents of each trustee district will know that they have their own voice on the board, and they'll be more likely to actually know that representative personally if they're from their smaller area within the school district. Parents and voters will know that their particular needs and concerns will be surfaced and considered carefully. In the past, school board seats, as we have mentioned, have sometimes been uncontested, and I think that this shift to by-district representation has the potential to boost our local participation in our school governments and in our local government at large. For these reasons, I support the transition, as well as the waiver of the elections requirements for transition, so that the change can be made on this compressed timeline to achieve the shift in time for the next election. Thanks. Thank you.
Steph, can I get the slides up for this item? It's on the desktop. Yep, that's one. So just to set some context for the resolution in this action segment of the agenda. Thank you. This is the same presentation that I did to our parent advisory on Monday. And just to let you know, I also implemented this presentation and shared this presentation with our union leadership, Leslie Walder, Edgar Ventura, and Gail Young, so CSEA, NVEA, and NAPS. So the NVUSD Board of Trustees is obviously, as you can see from the agenda items tonight, preparing to redraw trustee area boundaries and change from at-large to by-trustee area elections in order to be compliant with the California Voting Rights Act. CVRA Basics. The CVRA prohibits the use of at-large elections for governing board members if such an election method impairs the ability of a protected class to elect candidates of its choice, or its ability to influence the outcome of the election, as written in Election Code 14027. NVUSD elections. The members of the board are currently, as many of you have mentioned tonight, are currently elected in at-large elections. And when we say at-large elections, to just clarify for the community, that means all voters in a district's boundaries can vote for any candidate. In the by-trustee area elections, which is the methodology we are proposing to shift towards, each trustee represents a portion of the district that is elected by the voters in the area that they represent. The by-trustee area elections comply with the California Voters' Rights Act. These are the current NVUSD trustee area boundaries, and through this process, these boundaries will be revisited, and redistricting will be a part of the process. So changing the election method. Adoption of by-trustee elections will not affect the term of any sitting trustee. Trustees not up for election in 2020 would serve out their terms even if there were a change in the district's electoral system in the fall. This will currently, we currently have 3 trustees whose terms are up in 2022 and 4 whose terms are up in 2020, so 4 would be affected. Trustees who are up for election in 2020 would need to run for a district area where they reside, among other established eligibility criteria. The drawing of trustee district lines. Boundaries of each trustee area should represent similar proportions of registered voters. Traditional redistricting criteria is as follows: geography, cohesiveness, continuity, integrity, compactness of territory, and community of interest of trustee areas. The additional factors that have been approved include respecting the boundaries of political subdivisions like school attendance areas, city boundaries, use of whole census geography, avoiding contests between incumbents, and anticipating future population shifts. What's not allowed, of course, is racial gerrymandering. Waiver of the election requirement. So changing from an at-large to a by-trustee area elections normally requires voter approval of the change in the election method. In order to have the change to CVRA compliant elections effective for November 2020 election, which is just about 6 months away, the district must request the State Board of Education in Sacramento to waive the voter approval requirement. So the district will be submitting that request to the State Board. Why waive the election requirement? Well, it allows the district, the Napa Valley Unified School District, to transition to CVRA compliant election process to be effective for this upcoming election in 2020. And we will avoid any potential claims under CVRA. We'll avoid costs associated with the election of making the transition. We'll avoid uncertainty as to outcome of election to approve change in election method, and will protect minority voting rights from being decided by the majority. So what's the procedure for the waiver? We consult with advisory committees. I've accomplished that work in the last week. You consult with your bargaining units in a unified school district making this shift, and I have conducted that work. You hold a public hearing and board vote on waiver request. That's happening this evening. Submittal of the waiver request to the State Board of Education, which I've described, which would happen immediately after tonight's votes. And then the State Board of Education approves the waiver request in May, 6 months before November 2020 election. So here's our timeline for accomplishing the tasks involved with the conversion to the new methodology. You meet with the advisory committees, bargaining units, read the waiver. I've done that in late February. Tonight is February 27th, and the board's voting on the resolution of intent to transition, which launches the submittal and submission process for the waiver request that I've described. Effective tomorrow, we'll work on that submission, as I already stated. From March to May, we'll engage in community outreach, district map drafting, and public hearings on the proposed maps. In May, the board votes on adoption of the proposed district maps following all of the community engagement. In May, the State Board of Education grants the waiver request. And May to June, we'll engage in the submission of the new district maps to County Committee on School District Organization Elections Office. And then November 2020, the first election under the new trustee areas for the 4 seats that the term is up in 2020. That is the context for the items, and now I'll ask President Martin to proceed with the agenda.
Any comments?
Yeah, I have some. I just wanted to be really clear that right now, the way the election process happens is trustees have to reside in and do represent an area. It's just that they're elected by the entire NVUSD group as a whole, but they do in fact have to reside in and live in the specific area that they are representing, you know, whether that be area 1 through I think 7 that has been laid out. And so it's not that there isn't a trustee for your area right now, because there is, but I understand the comments that, you know, having a district-wide election is more challenging just because there's more voters. I think it's something like almost 70-ish thousand people versus a smaller slice of that. So I get that piece of it, but I just wanted to make really clear that there are these areas and people do have to live in the area even though they run at large.
Yeah, he's right. In other words, Mr. Shunk. Mr. Shunk, you live in American Canyon. Always have. That's right.
So I'm going to put my comments on the next 3 items together, and you can parse it into whatever relevant action item we're talking about, but I figured it'd be more coherent if I did it all at once. I don't have a problem with reviewing how we're elected once every 50 years or so. I don't have a problem with redrawing the lines on the upcoming paradigm even every 10 years. I do believe the current method of electing trustees served an important function 55 years ago in 1965. And that purpose may no longer be needed. And, you know, I don't debate that. In 1965, 12 elementary school districts and 1 high school district gave up their boards, their autonomy to form Napa Valley Unified. Second, in defining areas, but answerable to the whole, the district supported a unified view of schools formed from the aforementioned 13 districts. And it ensured representation from far-flung parts of the district. I don't know what the population of American Canyon was in 1965, but I'm betting it was less than a quarter of the 4,200 when I moved in 28 years ago. So I think our more sparsely populated parts of the district have been well served by ensuring that they had a seat at the board, or at least a good shot at a seat. I think we lack some of the troublesome anomalies that the city of Napa has to deal with. I'm referring to the county islands in the midst of the city of Napa. That is not to say we don't have our own anomalies and historical curiosities. I can't remember where I read it, and y'all know I read lots of obscure stuff. I would encourage the demographers to tack down the scope on the outermost borders of the district. Solano or Sonoma. So get out the map files, check the data, go to source documents, talk to old timers like John Tudor, but I think there's some curiosities buried in our boundaries. And I bring that out only because we have a bunch of relatively new folks in the district. I assume we told NCOE and the NCOE board that they're going to have to meet as the Committee for School District Organization, and that we've scheduled any meetings, documents, and signatures we're going to need to obtain. At least one of the mapping meetings, as one of the speakers alluded to, should be held in American Canyon. Because the targeted group of maps is a superset of our usual stakeholders, parents of school-age children. Other mapping discussions should be where people congregate naturally, which may or may not be our schools. So I ask folks to think about where we hold the meetings. We should, as a board, real soon now, like before we have to talk to John Tudor in June, revise Board Bylaw 9220, which is governing board elections. 9220 requires the board to modify boundaries every 10 years. That's what I expect we'll be doing go forward. But we should revisit a decision we made a few years ago that subsidized candidate filing fees. Once we go to much smaller by area, I see no reason to subsidize vastly reduced filing fees. But we can take that up at a future board meeting, but we should get it squared away before we have John order the election for November. Nomenclature. I really liked the way Dr. Massetti phrased it. I know folks that are pursuing by district, it's a terminology that works really well with cities and towns, but when you apply it to a school district, by district becomes confusing. So I really do like the by trustee area. I would ask anyone doing our communications to agree on the terminology and be really, really clear, because this is confusing to everybody. Even those that are involved, it can be a little confusing, and I'm not expecting that of most of our voting stakeholders. I'm hoping Howard will help us keep this all straight. So I like the idea of calling it by trustee area rather than by district. I understand that works for other entities. Otherwise, we're left with the nonsensical by district within a district, and it's crazy. Recursion has always given me a headache in programming. So I just want us to be clear in our terminology as we attempt to explain this to people, especially with concurrent discussions in the city of Napa. And I'm not sure whether City of American Canyon's gotten a letter yet, but I see no reason why they'd be left out of the fun. And the one thing I would like to do while I've got the camera focused on me is to urge the public and my fellow elected to pay attention to the maps and mapping criteria, because that's where it's all going to come down. The execution will be in the maps. People need to pay attention. It won't all fall on me and the other 6 of us. You actually need to attend those workshops or read the articles in the Register and be informed, because it's going to make a difference. Pay attention.
Just to make it clear, we have been, actually, Mr. Shunk and I had, and our former boards had brief discussions about district elections a while ago. And earlier this year, at Dr. Massetti's request, I met with legal counsel, and we discussed the possibility of moving to district elections. And we invited Mr. Tudor to give a presentation, and we decided. And some of the presentations were a little tone deaf to me, because you're talking to a board that has 3 Latino representatives, and you're talking about lack of representation. That bothers me a bit. And while I'm on what bothers me a little bit, your group believed it was appropriate to use my election as part of your rationale for moving now, but didn't find it appropriate to contact me as one of the longest serving Latino elected officials in the county to ask me where I stood on that position, on the position of district elections. And I find that almost as offensive to me as the farce I went through during the appointment process to fill Alfredo Pedrosa's empty seat. Just so you know, the paternalistic attitude that has been emanating from your group has really upset some of us, and me in particular, for the way you've gone about this. We decided that because our board was probably the most representative of any elected board in the county, that we could wait until the 2022 election to do a thoughtful, well-planned, and thorough investigation and community engagement process before we went forward with changing to district elections. So the fact that you're substituting your judgment for ours also kind of strikes me the wrong way. I support district elections. I will work hard once those districts are determined to find qualified applicants and candidates for those positions. I believe that the school board school boards are probably the most important boards in counties, because they address our most precious assets, and that's our children. To use them as political levers always upsets me. So I'm glad, I approve of us moving to district elections, although at-large elections have served this community well. And again, once that happens, I will look for people who I believe are qualified and will do a good job in replacing me and anyone else who leaves this board. So thank you.
I agree with a great deal of what my colleague here said, and as far as people running for office, I've always felt the more the merrier. The one thing I'd like to, maybe we should start calling them trustee area elections and not district elections, because, just to keep it very clear, because it was confusing. I follow elections quite closely here, and because for so long there were not challenged races, and as I've said, the work is so fulfilling, the pay is so munificent. I don't understand why people aren't raising $500,000 to, run against me. But yeah, okay, fine. But
don't pass the hat.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be easy. But yeah, it is confusing, because I think it is confusing to the public that you are limited in the area from which you run, but then everybody gets to vote for you. Although, I'm thinking of how, listen to our peregrinations around the Napa Valley Unified School District. We're all visiting schools that are not our schools, because we know that all the schools are our schools. I mean, you were at Phillips, which is actually my school, right? And I was up at River School, which is your school. Okay, and I certainly hope that when we make this transition, that the board members, and I think they will, because the people who are attracted to this job, we are kind of big picture people, we really are, and we like to run around and see what everyone's doing in the district. We're not parochial, and I want to see that spirit continue. So, thank you.
What we do.
No, yeah. So, but thank you for what you said.
I think for me, now that this is, in our plates, it's just, I also, echo what Trustee Hurtado said. It's really unfortunate how this came about, because as a community member that strives and advocates for individuals in our community that, deserve to be acknowledged and taken into consideration as part of the process of empowering them and strengthening them. It's really difficult to do so if you're not taking them into consideration at all. And for true engagement, that has to exist. So it's unfortunate that with the speed that this has to go through, civic engagement, which is really at the core of this, is not going to happen at the level that it should happen. Civic engagement, and as Latino community keeps getting mentioned over and over. As an immigrant myself and a Latino leader in the community, I feel that I can speak on this behalf for my many years of experience in this area, that it requires a lot of respect and community engagement and time and nurturing and trust to really, truly get a community that has been marginalized and many times felt that they haven't had the voice and have been treated as they were invisible, and by this process again, have been treated as they were invisible, and perpetuates the traumas that have existed in our people, our indigenous people as well. And so those kinds of actions I cannot support. However, as a community member that I am and leader, you have to be there for those that are going to be affected by this, because it's not an easy thing to bring up. Civic engagement for many of us Latinos actually at the core addresses traumas. So traumas are being surfaced here, and if they're not addressed appropriately, then they're taken without consideration and with disrespect. And so I and us, many of us of the community, will come together and try to engage as many as possible. And we will do our best together, all of us, not just the Latino community, but the community at large. And I look forward to continuing to do that work. But it is definitely going to be a tough process. So that being said, we will do at the school district level everything that we possibly can. As an institution of education, we can certainly take that pride in trying to help and educate our community as much as possible. But again, the timing makes it really difficult. So those are the challenges. But this is a board that is cares very much about our community, and will be able to, with working with our superintendent and the team on how we go about doing that. So I look forward to working with everyone on that end.
While I support the trustee by area, I think I'm resonating. I don't want to repeat myself. I know it's a long night. We're looking at the hours of 10 o'clock. I had to do a double take there. I do, like I said, I do support this, but at the end of the day, tuning into that confusion component, I myself, I'm following the city council, like I said at the beginning of this meeting, and it's been a confusing process. It is, like Rosanna had mentioned before in other settings, pedal to the metal, and that is like we're going full speed. It's not giving us an opportunity to actually have our communities engage or really deeply dive into information that's truly important. And we're talking about what Elba and Mr. Hurtado mentioned, the Latino, the indigenous community. But we have other community members that also, Filipino, we're looking at the Sikh community out in American Canyon. So, are we prepared for these kinds of questions that are going to come up? And secondly, is the information going to be available in that language? I know that's like a big question mark for everybody, but, I think right now with the resolution, right now it's just kind of like pushing that forward and kind of getting to the work. And once we start getting the work done, then we can have answers to that. Because again, we're working with such a speedy timeline that it's we don't want to drop the ball. So with that said, I really want to, just look at the board. You're looking at Ms. Vera Morales, who's our board secretary, to our superintendent, who is Latina, myself as being your president, Elba Gonzalez Mares, and then Ms. Robin Jankowicz, and then our legal counsel as well is Latina too. So I think it was really important for me to mention that because they said in the history of California, I think we're really representing our community and what we're reflecting. And so with that said, should this have gone about a totally different way where I feel that the intention was there, but don't ignore me when I'm in the room. I serve as a community liaison between the district. I've assisted many settings where the Napa Progressive Alliance, I didn't see anything progressive about your approach. And I thought that was very rude that I was in the room and there was no acknowledgement, and you're vouching for me. So I really do, there was various individuals there, from teachers to nonprofit agencies. You had community leadership there. You had, political figures from all over the valley, and they were not acknowledged. And so I'm really saddened by that. But with that said, what we have here and moving forward with Napa Valley Unified School District leadership, our attorney, I feel that we can fulfill the timeline because we're hardworking. That's what we do here. But I don't appreciate that coming on hard times and giving it a thoughtful and just process would have been just as well community involved. And so I really feel that I'm not going to reach all the constituents that are out there. And I'm saying this out loud now, that I'm really, really sorry to our entire community, whether that's American Canyon, Yountville, and the city of Napa that cannot participate because they can't make the meetings on such a short timeline.
So I would just like to follow up on some of the things that my fellow trustees have said and sort of explain why we're talking about this truncated timeline. So when we received this letter from this interest group, that started the clock ticking, right? As soon as we got that letter, we have a very short time within which to respond, and then we only have 90 days once we do respond to complete the entire process. Otherwise, the district is liable for very large attorney's fees and other financial awards that would be available to this group that has brought this request forward. And so why we have these truncated timelines and why we have to move so quickly is because of this threat of potential litigation from this group. So it's not that we want to have this quick and truncated process, but it's that we're forced to have this process because of this threat of litigation from this group. We did have the plan to take up this for the 2022 election, and instead of doing it that way in a more timely fashion, we're now stuck scuttling things that we were working on. It's taking away time from the important work that the district was doing to shore up finances, examine math curricula, examine discipline at our schools, and now we have to focus heavily on this in order to get it done in this truncated timeline. So it is a problem, and it is taking away valuable resources because there's only so much staff time, and there's only so much that can be done in a day. And so now we've put some of our other focuses on hold to respond that we have to do in this such short period of time. So I think that's important to keep in mind why this is suddenly now occupying our attention.
So it's a resolution. Do you need a motion?
We do.
Okay.
I'll move.
Second.
Charlie, give me 1 second. Mr. Charlie.
Ask a quick question. I don't expect an answer.
Great, ask away. We love those.
I'm Charlie Jones, one of the local idiots. If we go to this system, right, wrong, or otherwise, I don't have an opinion on that. Will this apply to all the district-wide committees and
No, it just applies to the 7 dwarfs up here.
well, I was wondering if it would also become a criteria for anything that's district-wide as far as committees?
Nope.
No. It's
Nope.
just a method of election.
That's it.
Thanks.
Cool.
So thank you, trustees. I appreciate all your comments. We're going to do the best job we can in the timeline that we've been presented. My staff and I will work collaboratively with legal counsel to proceed. And I do want to thank the unions for working with me today on the matter.
I think we need to take a vote on
Yes. Roll call.
Yes. I was going to make a motion.
Well, I made the motion.
Oh, you made it?
I think we have a motion and a second.
Yes.
Okay, so who was it first? Who made the motion?
Trustee Water.
Ms.
And I
Waters.
seconded it.
A second by Mr. Gracia.
Roll call.
Yes.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz. Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Hurtado.
Aye.
Trustee Shunk.
Aye.
Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
K1B, public hearing on request of waiver of elections, requirement for transition to by-district trustee elections. So I open for public hearing. Seeing no one. Okay. I'll close for public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
I don't think we have anything.
Do I?
No, no motion.
Oh, I'm sorry,
You
sorry,
can
sorry.
move on to K1C.
K1C, sorry.
I move to request the waiver of the elections requirement for transition to by-area trustee election.
Second.
First by Mr. Shunk, second by Ms. Gonzalez Mares. All those in favor?
Aye.
K1D, selection of demographer and approval of services agreement to establish trustee areas for transition to trustee election by districts.
So moved.
A first by Mr. Gracia. And a second by Mr. Hurtado. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions?
I just wanted to acknowledge the thoughtfulness that the district gave to who we selected as a demographer, accepting input from many, some interested and some uninterested, but made a decision that I think is in the best interests of the district.
Thank you, Trustee Shunk. Thank you. K1E, Board Policy 0450, Comprehensive Safety Plan.
So moved.
A first by Mr. Gracia.
Second.
A second by Mr. Shunk. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay. K2, Business and Operations. K2A, Memorandum of Understanding between Napa County Office of Education and Napa Valley Unified School District for the provision of a comprehensive financial and human resource management system.
So moved.
First by Mr. Gracia. Second by Mr. Hurtado. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions?
I'll stick in a plug for the district in the strongest possible ways, separate from NCOE, attending user conferences and paying particular attention to the product roadmap of our new vendor. Plug given.
Thank you. Plug received.
Received.
Okay. Sorry. So we already got our vote, correct, on that item? K2B, Resolution 2025, authorizing NVUSD to utilize cooperative contracting via the Enterprise Technology Piggyback Contract.
So moved.
Second.
Yes, it is. A first by Mr. Gracia, a second by Mr. Hurtado. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, sorry. I'm on a run here, sorry.
Trustee Martin?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares? Trustee Jankowicz? Trustee Water? Trustee Hurtado? Trustee Shunk?
Aye.
Trustee Gracia?
Aye.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much for putting me on track. K2C, purchase of Dell EMC hardware, software licensing, and professional services for the data center upgrade, backup upgrade, and disaster recovery solution.
So moved.
Second. A first by Mr. Gracia, second by Ms. Gonzalez Mares. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay. Did you want to say? K2D, purchase of security cameras, hardware, and installation services for 6 elementary school sites and central kitchen.
So moved.
Second.
A first by Ms. Gonzalez Mares, a second by Mr. Gracia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay. K2E, purchase of district-wide radios for communication from Crystal Communications.
So moved.
A first by Ms. Gonzalez Mares, a second by Mr. Hurtado. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
May I just say a word?
Yes.
This addressed the concern that we heard at Phillips, parents concerned about safety, so.
Oh, yeah?
Thank you.
Your coffee?
There are the items for safety. Mhm.
That mention safety as well.
Okay. So we move to K4 as we move K3. K4, instructional services. K4A, adoption of high school supplementary instructional materials recommendation for world language.
So moved.
Second.
First by Ms. Gonzalez Mares, a second by Mr. Gracia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? I'm sorry. K4B, memorandum of understanding between Napa Valley Unified School District and the Department of Justice.
So moved. Second.
A first by Ms. Gonzalez Mares, a second by Mr. Gracia. All those in favor?
Aye.
K4C, agreement between ACT Inc. and Napa Valley Unified School District.
I had a question on this item. Who is using the ACT software/testing program? Which school site and/or program does this benefit?
Any kid that wants to take the ACT.
So I can respond to that. So the reason the district is contracting for services with ACT is because they have a workforce readiness assessment tool, and we have students that are in our migrant education program, and then some students that are in the pilot internship programs. Right now, it is predominantly a program that's been mostly piloted at New Tech, but we'll be looking for expansion beyond New Tech. This workforce readiness assessment tool by ACT helps the district assess young people's workforce readiness for the future. So right now it's sitting in those kind of pilot program-specific spaces, but we're looking to consider using the tool for scalability in the future.
With that, I'll move to approve.
Second.
A first by Mr. Gracia, a second by Mr. Shunk. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? K4D, Carnegie Learning Professional Learning Proposal.
So I think this is a really interesting idea, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of this process, so I would hope to see that, I guess, at a future board meeting. And then I just want to take the moment to remind that we also need to focus on the improvement at our elementary schools in math, not just secondary, and I wanted to just put a plug in to make sure that we don't forget them.
There's no details yet. Assistant Superintendent Mary Ann Vyas, before she retires in April, this is the work that's connected to the math task force that we are doing. And so the results of this would come back to the school board as per Trustee Grossier's request via the report that will be given to the board in terms of the recommendations and outcomes of the math task force work once it's completed, which will inform a 2 to 3 year action plan moving forward around math improvements.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move to approve.
I second.
So first by Mr. Gracia, second by Ms. Jankowicz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, K5, operational services. Maintenance for Napa High School, disposition of band vehicle.
So moved.
Second.
First by Mr. Gracia, second by Ms. Gonzalez Mares. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. K, and I have to move, we moved K 6C. And that is, K6C is SPC 1.4-20, Measure H, updated implementation plan.
You're on camera, Mr. Pearson.
Thank you. I've always wanted to be on camera, Dr. Massetti.
Is he?
President Martin and trustees, we are bringing to you today our Measure H implementation plan update for February 27, 2020. I am joined with our Measure H program bond manager, Kelly Jurgensen, in this presentation. So we thank you for the opportunity to do this. We'll be focusing this presentation on goal number 4, which is tactical, proactive, and efficient asset management. Our objectives for tonight, for this very short presentation.
You're even behind me trying to say that.
There. To update the current Measure H implementation plan. We do annually, if not more frequently, but definitely on an annual basis, and to allocate funds in response to an ongoing bond program. Some of the highlights that you'll see in the plan when we bring it up in just a moment is the Stonebridge project allocation. So the school district has made an offer to Stonebridge to relocate their campus to another school site, and we have then removed the Stonebridge project allocation from the implementation plan. The second thing you will see on here is the Harvest Quad. We originally had a dollar amount roughly in the $1 million for the Harvest Quad, but with the enrollment that needs to be studied more closely at the middle school level, we are recommending that we not do the entire $1 million project. We can safely make sure that the quad is adequately safe with a smaller dollar amount. We've increased our contingency in our bond program. When we started when Kelly and I started with the bond program, there was actually no project contingency involved in the entire bond program, which made us quite nervous. That we, in April of 2019, we had a $1.8 million contingency, and the current plan now has a $7.8 million contingency to make sure that we are covering ourselves, as well as we also have contingency within all of our projects too. So that is very helpful. The new projects, with the reallocation of the money that was for the second middle school, we are going to be recommending a new multi-purpose and cafeteria room at American Canyon Middle School. In addition to that, we are going to be doing some campus modernization, focusing on roofs, HVAC, and site work at least 7 school sites, and hopefully we'll have some money to do more. And then finally, we have some technology projects with allocation realignment. Ms. Jurgensen, do you have anything to add? Sorry. And now you're going to be on camera too.
Make sure it's switch, please.
I'm ready. Sorry about that. Thank you, trustees, Dr. Massetti. The only thing I would add is that with regard to the contingency, it's important to note that the original implementation plan took you at a point in your bond where you had almost allocated all your funds and a lot of your projects were further along. As we take a step backwards in the process by allocating funds to new projects, it's important to note that having that stronger contingency when there are more unknowns is really important to the program. So I just wanted to note that.
Okay. Now we're going to bring up the implementation plan. We will reduce it. So another point we want to mention on this updated implementation plan is that from previous plans, totals for funding sources from other sources outside of Measure H had been listed in the implementation plan. However, they were not listed in this format, and so we wanted to make sure that this format was used in this way to provide further and more clarity to our funding sources. So you'll notice on the far right-hand side, the first column under GO bond, that's our general obligation bond, or what we refer to as Fund 21, that is Measure H. The developer fees, which is Fund 25, are the developer fees that we collect on new homes and businesses. The facilities fund, which is Fund 35, is matching money that we receive from the state of California. And you can see just down at the bottom of the screen, there's an $8.5 million listed in that particular column. That is for the snow money that we're going to be receiving, hardship money that we're going to be receiving on that particular project. And then the final column is the property sales, and that's Fund 40. And just to remind everybody that property sale money of any properties, that money has to only be spent on facilities in the school district. It cannot be used for other funding sources.
Kelly, can you try 75% Zoom level? Better, thank you.
Mike, the 8.5 million is a percentage of what?
The 8.5 million. So when we applied for this, it represents you apply for 50% of the cost of construction of the school site. So even though the project at Snow Elementary School cost a lot more than that, we were able to recoup 8.5 million, which is 50% of the construction costs at Snow Elementary School. Okay. We also added a column on column C, kind of just giving you a better information on where we are with within that particular project, whether it's complete, pending, or closeout with those ones. Okay. With that, and Kelly, do you have anything to add on the implementation plan that I did not cover?
I just wanted to give an opportunity to scroll down a little further so we can see those final board items, or those final implementation items, including the property sale column that you were just referring to, because those funds don't come in until later in. So I just scrolled down a bit.
And this is attached as an item, as part of the item?
Correct.
Yes, I am.
I'll move to adopt the updated implementation plan.
Second.
First by Mr. Shunk and a second by Mr. Gracia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mr. Pearson. I was going to call him Mike. I was going to call him. K6A, Inspector of Record Services for District-Wide Fencing, Phase 1 and Field Replacement.
So moved.
Second.
First by Mr. Gracia and a second by Ms. Water. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay. K6B, Award of leaseback pre-construction services to Wright Contracting.
So moved.
Second.
First by Mr. Gracia, second by Ms. Gonzalez Mares.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions.
Yes.
Mike, why lease back for roofs and HVAC? I mean, we built whole campuses on lease back, but, and while she's getting into position, I'll ask the second question. What was it about the interview that swayed the decision and otherwise close scoring on the vendors that responded?
Let me respond to question number 2.
All right.
So in sitting in the interviews, it was both applicants were qualified. We felt, though, that the Wright construction firm, by a long shot, by a long amount, was way more qualified than the other individual. They've done a significant amount of work, not only in the Napa Valley, but throughout the North Bay. And we felt they also had the personnel to deliver on the timelines that we needed to have with the projects to complete them in a timely manner. You want to answer question number 1 on the lease back?
Absolutely. So the reason we went with lease back, you're absolutely right. It's not a common methodology for this kind of work. 2 things are at play. The size of the project, because we're going to be working on 4 different campuses, so it's a larger dollar amount. And the second thing that came into play was the tight timelines and coordination that have to go on when you rip roofs off of schools. We're trying to do as much of that work in the summertime as we can. When school comes back online, we need to be very organized and ready for students and safe with whatever work is remaining. So we were looking for the best possible business partner, and that had to do with a best value conversation over just a simple hard bid. Because when you do a hard bid, you're going to have a lot of contentious relationships if there's any issues. The other thing that's really important to remember with lease-back, you get that pre-construction service. So I'm going to be on the phone with Wright Contracting on Monday morning saying, come on in, let's have our first meeting and start talking about what that summer timeline and phasing of the work is going to look like. So we get the benefit of all of those services before we bid the project.
That's great. What I heard in 10 words or less is it aligns everybody's interest in getting this done.
Absolutely.
I have a first by Mr. Gracia, second by Ms. Gonzalez Mares. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions? Okay. K6D, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, CBOC, membership approval.
So moved.
First by Mr. Gracia, second by Ms. Gonzalez Mares. All those in favor?
Aye.
Happy somebody. Yeah.
Abstentions? Okay, L.
Taxpayer Association.
L, informational, L1, business and operations, L1A, December 2019 investment report.
Rob, I just want you to check for me why we had such a shift from treasury to corporates, and if it was a yield chase, and because it still represents a huge amount of credit risk. I mean, it's all relative, right? But we're moving out of risk-free investments into a minimal amount of risk. And so it's just, and the spreads that credit spreads are at an all-time low. So I mean, I just curious.
I'm glad to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. L2A, quarterly report on Williams uniform complaints.
It's nice to see that there are none.
I know, like, L3, do you? The 0, why it's 0. L3A, Charter Council meeting minutes, September 19th through January 20th, or excuse me, 2020.
So I would like to say that it appears that some improvements have been made since we last saw these, but there still appears to be a long way to go to get them into really good shape. But at least we're making progress, so I appreciate that.
Okay. Board representative reports. No, we did not. So M1, Curriculum and Student Support Committee.
I started mine.
Okay, so you can finish.
Well, this one is the Curriculum and Student Support Committee. I was leading that meeting, and we had school board staff present to go over this item. We talked a lot about the Professional Day event that's coming up on March 13, which is at American Canyon from 8 to 3 p.m. I think everyone has received on the diocese the invitation to be there. I plan to be there in sort of a run on the really strong commitment and having all of our teachers and staff all together at once under one roof. The topics, there's 115 topics that are going to be discussed. So that's amazing. I mean, it's just a conference within our own school districts is the way that I see it. And there's going to be amazing facilitators. And they're amazing facilitators because they're our own. And many of them are our own. So that is really, really cool. I thought that was really important to highlight and surface that within our own school district, right? We have very strong advocates and trained individuals and passionate that can teach their peers. And so I love that we're, in a classroom setting, embracing that classroom setting with each other. We also talked about the discipline task force. We went into a very conversation on a survey that went out to our parents about their concerns on when it comes to the students' behavior and interactions and what we can do. And so this survey is still it's still being, people are still,
the survey's
the one is, okay, that one's closed. Okay, so I think we were there, it went out. So the results are back. Okay. So we'll have more updates on that later on. And then I had a note here about the Napa Valley Educators Association selecting teachers. It was about 19 for the discipline task force. Yes, that's what that was for. And there's 19 members part of that. So I think there's really important to reflect that there is a team of us and well represented, that there's all, when you're looking at a task force, it's important to have reflection of all the different opinions as we address such an important item that is, reflective of our needs in our community for our Napa School District community. So I just thought, 19, I was like, wow, that's a lot of perspectives in the room. So we look forward to hearing back from them. And we also talked about Marianne Valles went into the math task force. We know there's concerns there. The board did we did a study session on this one item last week, which I think we all felt it was very productive. We got a lot of great information and insight. And I feel like a lot of really honest, real conversations were happening in that room, and that's something that I really appreciate. But we in our committee meeting, we were just talking about supporting the math task force to do what it needs to do, and then for us to provide kind of guidance or thoughts in that process. And then we went into the LCAP stakeholder engagement process. Marianne Valles walked us through that process a bit that we're all familiar with, and those are particularly the highlighted items that I wanted to mention. I don't know if my fellow members who were there with me wanted to add anything.
I think you covered it really well.
Yes, as far as the math committee, where, I think we were all there, I was really impressed with the two young teachers, one from New Tech and the other from American Canyon, who presented and, explained a lot to us.
We'll move on to M2 facilities and and technology?
Sure. The facilities and technology, we covered 4 items. One was the review of the Measure H implementation revised plan, which we voted on tonight. The phasing of athletic fields, security fencing, finishing kitchens, and roofing, and sort of what the timetable would look like and how we might space those things. And then on technology, we got a technology update covering many of the things that were voted on tonight, including radios and some other pieces that will make our, like cameras, that will make our campuses more secure and safer. And then we reviewed the Measure H implementation plan for technology, just to see where we are at the current time and sort of what the next steps are going forward. And that was the basis of the Facilities and Technology Committee meeting.
Finance Committee, M3.
We haven't met yet.
Okay, M4, Policy Committee.
I started to talk about that earlier. So we kind of covered the review of our board policies and the regulations and regulations, an item we discussed earlier today. So like I mentioned, we saw a copy of the track changes. We, as a committee, discussed little details like that it was important to reflect out there, not the finished product, but the track changes, so you could see what is being updated to kind of create that engagement with those that wanted to see our updates. So I think that area, I think we're pretty covered there, and just to mention again how important it is to the board to continue that practice, and that's going to be a regular practice of ours. And that we've heard some feedback from staff that they felt they were feeling how helpful it is to look for the board policy and know that it's updated and having a, not a 1973 date on it, but something more up to date. I mean, it's just, that was a great year. Yeah. And so, and then the next item that we discussed was going back to the end of the school year last year, of the request of the raising of the pride flag during the LGBTQ Pride Month. Actually all of the municipalities in Napa County created a policy that reflected this request coming from the community, and also members of the LGBTQ community and allies and people alike came to our school board with that same request. The board did approve a resolution at that time, and that we would follow up as we were, the timing wasn't the right one, and so here we are in our policy committee reviewing that. So we did have counsel at the meeting to provide us with guidance. We are looking at other policies that are already in place, of course, as guidance as well, but then it has to meet the needs of the school district. And so we gave some direction to council to start looking into a policy and a draft that we'll review. And we did, as a committee, give guidance on really looking at having a community poll at the NVUSD site here in front. And then, and give direction at that point. The staff and Dr. Mercetti will have an opportunity to find, the best and fun ways to engage our student body and our teachers and staff to be part of that process. Anything to add? Okay.
Before I move on, I just want to check in with my board. It is 10:30, and so would you like to proceed? How would you like to proceed?
We're nearly done. Let's keep going.
I still have to check in at 10:30.
Okay.
M5, Special Education Community Advisory Council.
We did meet, I gave a brief report. What I think I could say is that during the course of the meeting, Terry Lynn Rossetti made a really great suggestion, I hope, and that was to recruit the parents of special ed children who are moving through the grades to act as mentors for parents who are just starting at kindergarten, so that they can help the parents anticipate some of the experiences their children are going to have. So I would encourage us to support that kind of idea and
Yes.
planning.
It's great.
And again, it's critical that we try and help recruit parents to these meetings. They seem to find us when we're out in the community, but they can't seem to find, for whatever reason, their way to our advisory meetings.
M6, City of American Canyon Liaison Representatives, we have not met, so we will skip that one. City of Napa Liaison Representatives,
We have not met since the last time we reported.
and M8, Town of Yountville Liaison Representatives.
We did meet, we touched upon the continuation of declining enrollment and district impact, as well as the budget outlook, which Rob has presented to the board and community at numerous board meetings. There is a brief update on Measure H, and as we've had numerous discussions on enrollment and budget, we decided to keep it to a brief status report. There was a discussion on the appraisal of There was a discussion on the appraisal of the Yountville Elementary School. The district will engage the 7-Eleven committee in late spring to do the surplus property analysis. A number of factors have to be considered before the committee reconvenes. Discussion on aftercare programs for yes parents attending Willow was discussed, and when was the current facility cutoff date. The district confirmed that all meetings had been conducted with staff regarding the move. 100% of the Yountville families received their first or second choice, with the majority receiving their first choice of schools. The City of Yountville is looking forward to a collaborative working relationship as we address the surplus property issue, and we agreed to set a date post the 7-Eleven meetings to reconvene.
Thank you for your report.
welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for your report. That was very, very nice. It was really thorough. Additional suggestions and comments from board members and superintendent?
I just want to say I like sitting next to the president. It makes everything a lot easier. Proximity is
She's
good.
pinching me, and, she's over here nudging me under the,
We have Mig.
I'm kidding. Okay, so future agenda items? Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, goodness. A first by Mr. Gracia and a second by Mr. Shunk. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Please.